Tell the truth.
You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to this channel.
Tell the truth.
You are listening to Information Man. Please.
The Information Man Show.
East Coast always in me, Commonwealth, Lil Jon, getting love from my city. Yeah. I roll call for the DMV. In my own lane, you could still ride with me. Yeah.
Lord knows I made mistakes.
You won't in, but it's too late.
I need your support just to know I'm important.
I won't ever sell myself short, cause I know you see me on the come up. Big girls with big dreams and big dreams. Target's cheap, but please dare me to run up. I'ma put my money where my mouth is. Talk a good game, I'm an alphabet. Even on my worst days, still an alphabet. Standing next to me, you gotta be an alphabet. 8 ball in your pocket, I'm your alphabet. Alphabet, baby.
Never really fit in, always felt like an alien.
I be in my own space of mind, making boss moves in my own time, and I
Got my own rise.
find me all alone. I'm on the road. I had to take a couple hits, a couple stones, but targets I don't ever miss. They wanna know.
It's hard to be me.
Let me give you this game for free. No, you see me on the come up. Big girl with big dreams and big drip. Talk is cheap, but please dare me to run up. I'ma put my money where my mouth is. Talk a good game, I'm an alphabet. Even on my worst days, still an alphabet. Standing next to me, you gotta be an alphabet. 8 ball in your pocket, I'm your alphabet. Yeah, alphabet, baby.
What's up, everybody? Peace. Peace, everybody.
Tell the truth.
Peace, everybody. Thank you. Look, this is going to be a very interesting show today. I got to keep it real with you. I got my man Ray Alexander. We've done some classic videos on this channel together. He has come over and we have done videos on why black people should leave California and go back to the South, where our numbers are stronger for political power, unity, and what have you, economic power. We've done videos about why black people should leave the Rust Belt. We've done these types of videos where we did one about microchipping, how black people, particularly black men in particular, black women as well, should get into semiconductor microchipping type company. That's an area that is very vast, but you do not have a lot of people in that particular occupation that looks just like us. It's a wide open field. It's very powerful, and we need to get black people into those areas of tech. Okay, but we got to be aware of something, because you do have some companies out here that are wolves in sheep clothing. Now, I showed you on the intro of this video, and let me give a clap to everybody that's coming into the chat room. I don't know how many people are going to come over and watch this type of content, because this content is very educational. A lot of times we like to watch the stuff that's polarizing and flashy, but this is the type of content that we really need to be paying attention to, because we can actually get something from this, because we can learn something. Okay, as I said before, black people, black men, black women, we need to be in STEM. We need to be in technology, but we need to be aware of some of these schools out here that are predators, that are selling us a bag of goods, telling us that they're going to give us a job, they're going to do this and that for us, when all they're trying to do is grab the bag off of us and grab the bag off the government when it comes to student loans, and then leave you high and dry in debt. Now, as I said before, in the beginning of the intro of this video, I showed you things like this. We have right here, Divide College. A lot of you are familiar with this. We see the commercials, Divide College. Divide College has been around for a while. They are one of the for-profit universities that has come under heavy scandal. You can't trust them. And they have left a lot of people high and dry with no education, poor education at that, no degrees that are worth anything, because these schools have lost their accreditation. Let's not forget this one right here. I go way back with this one, and that's Hills College. Hills College, back in the day, established in 1863, they also got hit very heavily. Let me let you know what they got hit with. If I can, I'm gonna read something to you about Hills College. And I'm going to bring Ray Alexander in. Just California, and Hills College was mainly a California school. California colleges get fined $30 million for allegedly lying about terrible job prospects to their students. The Department of Education, the DOE, notified Hills College, San Francisco, on Tuesday that it would be fined $30,000 for misrepresenting the kinds of jobs its graduates could get. The DOE, Department of Education, was on the job with this one. In one strike example, Hills College, which is part of the beleaguered College Incorporation, allegedly counted an account major as employed in her field when she only had a job at Taco Bell. So what they're doing is they have graduates who have gone on to working jobs that you would say, hey, someone with that type of education shouldn't be working at Taco Bell in this case. And they were lying and saying that those students that left their school left to lucrative opportunities, and they also lied about job prospects for these kids. So these students were going into jobs that did not lead anywhere, did not take them anywhere. You got to be aware of this type of stuff that goes on. I just want to take that off the screen there and let you know that that's one of them that you need to be aware of. Another one, if I'm not mistaken, is Everston College. I believe I'm correct. Everston, let me take that off the screen. Everston College is another college that's under scrutiny. I think they've lost their accreditation. And keep this in mind, if you got a degree from one of these schools and they get taken out by the Department of Education, they lose their accreditation. They're not recognized as a credible, accredited university or college. That means that your degree is not worth the paper that it's written on. Okay. Now, let me do something for you before I bring Brother Ray Alexander in. This is what I'm going to do. And I want to say thank you to everybody that's in the chat room right now. This is what I want to do. I want to play you something. I want to play something All right. I'm back on, Ray. Let me go ahead and do something real quick. There we go. So everybody, I'm about to play something for you that I think is very important. I want to show you all something as soon as I pop out of something real quick. And then I'm going to go back into the other area that I was in. Hang on for a minute. I'm having some technical difficulties. I don't know why this is happening at this moment right now. Oh, goodness, gracious. Let me go back in here and let me hang on, folks. I got to fix the technical problems right now. I don't know why this wants to do this right now. So let me go ahead and if I can get into this thing here and take this. Okay, now it's working. Okay, I want to play you all something. It's going to be a video. And what I want to do is I'm going to put this up here, share screen. It's coming, folks. Just give me a little bit of time here to set this up.
I graduated summa cum laude.
Listen to this.
My associate's degree, and that was the beginning of the end. This $50,000 piece of paper is actually completely worthless.
The for-profit
Can you hear
college
this?
industry
Is it to educate?
All right, I'm going to make sure that everybody can hear this. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I'm going to make sure you can hear it. I think I didn't have it connected properly. Give me 1 minute. Technology being what it is. Okay, there we go. Just want to make sure I have this properly connected, and we're going to get into it right now. Here we go.
The final picture of me while I was still happy. I graduated summa cum laude. I got my associate's degree, and that was the beginning of the end. This $50,000 piece of paper is actually completely worthless.
the for-profit college industry
Is it to educate?
If you can hear, put a 1 in the chat room.
Turn a profit.
I'm nervous. Like, it's a college interview. The guy comes out, real sharp dressed, nice suit, big watch. He takes out a list of all the places I could get a job. Well, how much is it? He's like, you know what? You don't have to worry about the price. There's student loans for all this stuff. You get a job, you're gonna be making all this money. What you're getting is worth gold. You don't have to worry about the price.
So many for-profit college students walk into a school and they assume it's a noble thing. Imagine if I walked into a used car dealership and thought the salesman was my friend.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Amy.
They will call you 20 times a day.
Amy. Amy.
Lying about how much debt you'll take on.
We have some students who are making $600, $700, $800, maybe $1,000 a day.
Will I pay it back? Probably not.
They would hire former exotic dancers as recruiters.
Whatever it took to close the sale, get them talking about their feelings.
She, in that hour and a half, became my friend.
Then you could manipulate them to say, well, how are you going to fix it?
They just want their money. They don't care what they promise you. They're not interested in you on any level or in education or in anything.
They didn't have teachers in some of the classrooms.
I didn't want to put my name on anything having to do with education unless it was going to be the best.
Navigate to YouTube, pull up a specific YouTube video. I could have done that from home. This whole program is a joke.
Did they know the level of abuse? Absolutely.
This wasn't a rogue employee, and this is how the company taught its employees to act.
These students were getting terrible education, taking on huge debt. Even if they graduated, they didn't have the skills they needed.
Just fancy enough for us to think that it was legit.
These companies were knowingly destroying people's lives.
All right, everybody. I want to say something real quick. I want to say fair uses. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion picture videos, tapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without authorization of the copyright holder. Okay, this is copyright right under 17 U.S.C. 107. This is called fair use, fair use. So we're doing fair use here. I want you all to see that because you see that it's affecting all different race of people, but they are heavily predatory towards black people. Let me go right here before I bring Ray in. And I want to show you one other thing I want to read to you all as I get ready to bring Ray in very soon here. And let me read this to you. It's on your screen. Hopefully you can see this. Let me give you an example. For example, the author found, this was a study, found that the apportionment of students completing their certifications or degrees differed greatly depending on their background, characteristics, and the type of institutions they attended. The 6-year graduate rate for black students entering higher education in the fall of 2012. Now, they looked at 2012, but this is still something that's been going on into today as they have gotten rid of some of these schools. Okay. Fall of 2012 was about 42.9% at public 4-year universities and 45.5% at private or non-profit 4-year universities. It was only 14% at for-profit universities. So basically what the study is showing is that when black people and Latinos as well were affected, but when black people went to these for-profit schools that they've been that are predatory, we did not graduate with our degree or certification. It was down to about 14.2%. So that means if you are a black man, a black woman, and you go to a university, you stand a better chance of leaving that university with a degree at the tune of 42.9% at that time. Once again, black students entering higher education during the fall of 2012 at that time was 42.9% at public 4-year universities. And it even went up higher when they went to private nonprofit universities. But when we get involved with these ITT techs, these DeVry universities and these Hastings universities, these Hills College and Everston College, our numbers dropped. Now, this was a portion that they took from a study during this particular time, but it holds true even going forward from that year. Let me do this before I'm going to get ready to bring Ray in. Let me read this last one because I have lots of other numbers for you. Now, although Hispanic or Latino students were more likely to graduate than black students across all institution types, the pattern of lower 6-year graduate rates at the for-profit 4-year institution was the same for them. So same thing for Latinos, 55.2% completing at public 4-year institutions, 57.1% completing at a private nonprofit 4-year institution, and at 28.1% completing at a for-profit university. So these for-profit universities that are predatory are dangerous, and they particularly go after what we would call people of different ethnic groups. Particularly, they've been predatory towards black people. And you know what the biggest group that they've been predatory towards? Black women, because black women in general are the biggest attendees of universities. So the numbers would actually measure out that if black women are going to school, colleges more than even black men, then they would be the biggest victims of this. Not to say that we're not victims of it, but black women would certainly be. And we got to keep it real. Black women would certainly be at risk in this situation, ladies and gentlemen. And that is the truth. Let's go over to my man, Ray Alexander, and bring him on board, because I just wanted to make that point as a way to open up the show today. And this is very important. But Ray, thank you for being here, brother. Thank you for the patience. I'm sorry for some of the technical problems in the beginning. Things seem to be freezing up, but we're going to work through them. Ray, you brought this to my attention. We've done other classic videos in the past. This is going to definitely be another one. I see we got Let Me See My Transcript. We got Keith in there. Fisher is in there. Thank you all for coming here. Black Sheep family. Ray, this is the type of content that I wish more of our people would gravitate towards, because this is really real bottom line stuff that affects us as individuals on the ground level. But Ray, take it from there, brother. Give us more insight into this.
Well, thank you for having me today, and I appreciate you for covering this important subject. And this is not to discourage people from going to college or to higher education. This is to be aware of the type of colleges that give you the best return on your value. What happened is that the for-profit colleges are basically predatory institutions, and you showed the information how they were looking for people who were vulnerable, who were wanting to make good decisions about getting into technology careers, but they didn't have the preparation and skills. And unfortunately, sometimes they did not have the sophistication to understand that these institutions were not really colleges. If you attend there, you won't be able to transfer your preparatory courses to a place like the engineering program at Cal State Polytechnic, or UC Berkeley, UCLA, or Georgia Tech, Texas Tech, Virginia Tech, any of the schools, because these basically are computer servers that you have you have there in office parks to look really nice, and they're selling a lot of these kids hope and dreams, and they have exploited them. And what happened is, since they exploited some brothers and sisters and other people in the U.S. military, what happened, the Department of Defense came against these schools because a lot of money is spent by military veterans when they retire or even when they're in school, and they weren't giving them value. They were selling them a pipe dream. So when these guys were using their military benefits to go to these schools and they were not being placed well, or they were placed far lower than their skill sets, a lot of them were placed on low tier things that they could learn on the job. They were on help desk clerks. Nothing wrong with help desk analysts. They were things like quality assurance analysts. These are entry-level things that you can learn right off the street. But if you've borrowed $30,000, maybe over 1 year, or $60,000 over 2 years, and you think you're going to become a computer systems administrator, and they have you on the help desk, and you're paying all that money back, and you're not even, the skills that you learned are not relevant to what's happening, then you just want to look at those things. But I do want to encourage people that we need, especially Black men and women, need to be in advanced technology training. There are legitimate institutions, community college, public technical colleges that are sponsored by the states. There are what we call IT apprenticeship programs that are incorporated by your state Department of Employment or Workforce Commission, and they will help you get to where you need to go. So so I do want to encourage us. We need higher education. We need advanced, especially Black men. We need to get into STEM. As you said about the mic, where they just passed what we call the CHIPS Act. Remember when we did that about a year ago? It's passed and it's been signed by Biden. There's going to be massive investment in building microchip fabrication plants throughout the U.S. and expanding them. And we need to get brothers in there. That's some lucrative industry. They said that the average income for a chip worker, someone who starts out about at $60,000, but the average income is about $170,000. We need brothers to be working for Intel, Samsung, Texas Instruments, all of these chip manufacturers in the U.S. where you have good long-term jobs, but you got to get the right training, and we can't be played with about these third-rate pseudo education. And the people they've profited off of this like fat rats, man. These people,
right.
You remember how a few years back the University of Phoenix was the sponsor for the Arizona Cardinals football stadium? The richest school is in the United States is Harvard. They wouldn't waste their money doing that. How were they able to sponsor a football stadium contract? Because they were getting those student loans and pocketing that money. And these companies are traded on NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange. So they're for-profit institutions, and we need to educate our people. What is for-profit? What does that mean? That means that they are there to make money. They don't even care about if you're prepared for that. That's why the failure rate is so high. In most engineering programs, in most computer information systems programs, business information systems, management information, there is a 1 to 2 year preparatory stage where you take your basic courses, preparing to compete for a spot in the engineering college. You're usually pre-engineering, pre-computer science, pre-information systems, and you get that whole 1 year to 2 years of preparation, and you compete. What they do at these schools, they welcome everybody because they know you want to be called an engineer, but you're not studying engineering. You're studying very modest level technical work, which is good, but don't expect to be in the same place where you might be a director of systems technology or vice president of systems technology or the chief technical officer for a school district, a city where you have Black populations where that can be real. And we need to educate our brothers and sisters. And I appreciate you for bringing this back up.
Let me shout out Empress Queen for the super chat. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you. Empress Queen, check out our channel. Let me see your transcript. Poppy is in there. I really appreciate that, brother. Poppy's in there rocking in the chat room. And then let me shout out to brother Keeping It Techie. I think I am going to drop a link for him specifically to come up and join the panel for him specifically, because this is an area that he says that he talks about as well. And that's the kind of channel that he has. He has Tech Talk on his channel. And I definitely would like to drop a link for him to get his perspective on this area. But Ray, let me do this. I think people need to, before I drop a link to bring Keeping It Techie up, I want to bring him up. I want to, for the sake of time, I want to show them a little portion of the other video that I have as we continue this discussion. Folks, I'm telling you right now, this is very important. Some of you out there have kids who want to go into tech. These are things we need to be aware of. Some of these predatory so-called colleges that are wolves in sheep clothing. Let me tell you another area that everybody needs to. I was looking at the article that you sent me. This is the Federal Trade Commission. They're one of the organizations in this country that have been cracking down on some of this nonsense. Let me go ahead and do this. Let me put a couple of things in here for people to see right here. So right here it says for-profit colleges sometimes use overburn, flat out false promises to attract new students. This is some of the findings from the Federal Trade Commission and the money. They will lie about how much money you could possibly make in a particular field that you're going through. So the bottom line is that a lot of these tech skills that you can develop can get you a great living, but they're lying to you when they say that, hey, we can get you this job, this recruitment. And like Ray is saying, they're not really teaching you in-depth skills that prepare you for these tech positions. They're giving you very basic things that mean you're getting a inferior education. Is that right, Ray? You're getting an inferior education.
That's what the people who are engineers, who are professors of engineering, the people who teach information technology, and they're saying all of that because even one school got sued because they were implying that they were preparing people for the big 5 technology firms, and they stopped that advertising. So you'll see the Federal Trade Commission sued ITT for $100 million. They sued what's the name of that other college? DeVry. It's just they've been getting sued all over the place.
And then you got this right here. Remember, I just read in the beginning of the show, this was a long time ago, Hills College got hit with a big suit, but they're no longer around. They're defunct. But here's one right here. Most recently, the University of Phoenix agreed to a $191 million judgment settlement with the Federal Trades Commission, charged that they attracted students. It used deception. They used deception in their ads that had false claims. Because I remember, Ray, when I was growing up, that you used to have all these little tech commercials on TV, and they would always say, hey, if you want to get an education and make money a lot sooner than later than going to a traditional 4-year school, you come here, we'll give you the skills, and we'll provide you opportunity to get the jobs. And they would also say that they had connections into some of these fields, with getting people placed in jobs. So they're telling people a lot of lies. Let me read this right here. This came from the Federal Trades Commission, folks. Job opportunities at companies such as the AT&T, Yahoo, Microsoft, Twitter, and the American Red Cross, and another matter, DeVry, as you just said before, university paid $100 million to settle the Federal Trade Commission charges, meaning charged them that they were pushing out false realities. False. I mean, they were lying, not realities. They were lying literally and not telling people the reality of where their degree was going to take them. And I'm going to say this again. If you are a person that's gone to one of those schools and that school's went defunct, Ray, tell me if I'm wrong or right. If the school is defunct and they've lost their accreditation, not only lost their accreditation, they don't exist anymore. You saw in the beginning, this is why I showed that video in the beginning. That means that paper that you got is not worth anything. Is that right, Ray?
That's true. That's true. And that they were never transferable anyway to any real college. If I would say you couldn't go to DeVry and transfer your skills to get a graduate degree at Georgia Tech. You wouldn't be able to go to definitely MIT or Caltech or any legitimate school like that, or any of the smaller schools.
Yes.
What's happening is that someone did mention in the chat that President Biden has offered some loan forgiveness. If you went to one of those illegitimate tech schools, you can research the U.S. Department of Education to see if there's some loan, because this has been straight fraud, and they have taken advantage of the most vulnerable people who earnestly wanted to learn technology to advance themselves. So
Right.
Their heart was in the right place. They said, hey, I want to get into this technology. All of this is moving around us. Let me get in on this too. And what did they do? They exploited the most vulnerable. And it was a hardcore sales tactic. They were coming in. You just displayed it a few minutes ago, how they were coming in.
Right.
They were looking for personal weaknesses, people who were in vulnerable situations, that they had very poor jobs. They were in bad relationships and maybe were getting ready to get pushed out. They were trying to move forward. And what did they do? They came there and just used them worse. So
Right.
They got all this debt now, no skills, and they still were coming out of abusive situations. So,
Right.
and and like you said, when you look at these commercials, and Queen Latifah, Steve Harvey were advertising for Strayer University. They get these people to who seem legitimate to advertise. You go into a lot of poor Black communities, and you'll see all of these ads on the buses, on the a lot of the city buses and things like that. They'll have it. So-and-so university, become a computer technologist, become this, that, and the other. And the people spend all that money and they're not even placed. So that's unfortunate, but it's real out there. And I really appreciate that you're sharing this, man, because we need more people to talk about this so that we can steer them into the right locations so they can get this training, because the advanced technology is here. Automation, artificial intelligence, all of this is here. The fourth industrial revolution is here, but we want to get in on it the right way. These people are real good at selling dreams, but they're not real good as preparing people to be really good in computer information systems and computer technology.
Right. Let me do this, Ray. I'm going to show example of what you're talking about with Queen Latifah. I'm going to play the 30-minute ad, but I would say to everybody in the chat room, if you've been a victim of one of these type of universities, if you feel comfortable enough to do this, put a 1 in the chat room. If you've either gone to one of these schools and maybe you got out of the school because you realized that they were running game on you, or if you've had a horror story to tell, let us know. Maybe someone in the chat room has had a horror story, and I can bring you on up to the panel. Keep it techie. Please stay around. I'm going to drop a link for you specifically. But if there's anybody who has a legitimate, real horror story, I only want legitimate people who have a horror story, meaning they've had a experience that they can give us as an example. I'll tell you right here, Ray, I know someone personally who went to a university or to a college similar to these colleges, and they kept moving the ball on her. Every time she completed all the requirements, they were just trying to get a money grab. Every time she kept completing the requirements towards graduating, Then when she would be ready to submit all her paperwork to get processed for graduation, they kept throwing an extra course on her. Oh, by the way, we changed something. We're going to need you to take this now and take that. Wait a minute. You said that, because I know when I was in college, in a legitimate 4-year university that's not for profit or private, they have a bulletin. We get a school bulletin for the year that we came into college, and you follow that bulletin. Like I went to college back. When did I enter college? Was it 88 or something like that? 89. I entered college, and I had to follow that bulletin throughout my whole years in college. That was my Bible to everything I needed to take to be able to matriculate through the system, Ray, and graduate. Okay. And when it was time, there was nobody saying, oh, you got to take this. If they did change some requirements, guess who it was going to affect? It would affect the incoming freshman class that would now be required to take something that I wasn't required because they go by the bulletin year that you came into school. I knows what I'm talking about. But when it comes to these for-profit schools, they keep moving the goalposts. Oh, well, we're going to need you to, oh, we're sorry. We just need you to take 2 more classes. That's just their way of squeezing the Charmin out of you more and more. So if anybody in the chat room has experience at one point in time in their life being in one of these educational situations at these for-profit colleges, what's going on, Jackie? Put a 1 in the chat room. We will definitely bring you up to be a part of the conversation. But with that said, Ray, let's go ahead and let everybody see this Queen Latifah promo. See, they use people. And Ray, let me ask you this. When they use people like celebrities, and particularly black celebrities like Queen Latifah or anybody, aren't they sort of trying to target the black community as well because they know that we look up to and follow these people? Isn't that a slick way to also gravitate black people to say, hey, maybe this is legitimate because Queen Latifah is advertising it?
Most definitely. And the fact that Queen Latifah's mother has been a school teacher and her father was a police officer, that adds legitimacy a lot to these people. And Steve Harvey, because and probably they might have thought to some degree that they were being helpful, but I'm sure they were very well paid because they wouldn't have come up there if they hadn't gotten paid. But that is, they have targeted the poor black communities, and people who are really looking to come up. And so they advertise way better. See, in a lot of the other schools, they have a real large supply of people already applying. So you have a hard time getting in. So these schools said, okay, we're basically, there's a section that you're showing that they took away the basic admissions requirement. You used to have to take a basic aptitude test and all of this. They took that away. But what happens when they go to these companies will give you a technical aptitude test for whatever position you're going into. Then you have the very comprehensive technical interview. So if you can't get past that technical aptitude test, you still messed up because they didn't do those things for you. But I really would like you to go over that if you have, when you have.
Okay. Well, let me do this. Let me do this. Let me get a link. Let me copy a link. I got to play this promo because you said something about Queen Latifah, and I want to make sure that I play the promo for people to see. I'm dropping a link in the chat room. This is specifically for Keep It Techie. I see we got identity withheld. I believe identity withheld works in tech. So identity withheld, if this is up your will ladder, you're more than welcome to come up and speak about this. If anybody, I'm being specific here, folks, because I still haven't gotten to we got a sister that I need y'all to listen to who is an academic, and she's going to break it further down how it impacts black people in particular, even though it affects everybody. I'm going to drop the link in the chat room. I'm going to need specifically Keep It Techie to come up. I'll need specifically someone like identity withheld if this is up your will wagon. And in terms of you understand the tech stuff because you've experienced going to school and studying tech and all of that. And anybody who's actually applied for one of these schools and went to one of these schools and had to leave the school specifically because they were trying to rip you off, or you were a victim specifically, because I'm going to ask you questions and you got to be specific. Okay, let's go ahead and let everybody see this, Ray. This is important.
All right then. Gotcha.
And here we go.
It hasn't always been easy, has it?
Now, Ray, can you hear that?
There have been days when you.
But I don't know if everybody else is hearing. I'm getting some paranoia here because I feel like every time I try to connect this, I'm forgetting to do something. Ray, I should have brought you in through my other system where I don't have to deal with this. Let me see something here. I know what I'm doing.
At the beginning, I could hear it if you.
Yeah, no, what it was is I'm forgetting to click the audio.
Okay.
In my other system, I don't have to worry about this stuff. It just automatically pops out. But anyway, let me just put this up here. I see Keep It Techie coming in right now. I'm going to bring him in. And Ray, let's hear this right now.
Doubted yourself. And days when you were ready to quit. But you didn't. Because you had the courage to venture into something powerful. Education. If I leave you with just 3 words of advice, never stop growing.
All right, Ray, there you go. Right there, that's the commercial where they are trying to get at the hearts and minds of our people by inspiring us by using someone that's recognizable. Now, she definitely is being used to inspire everyone to go to one of these predatory universities. But there's a dual benefit to this because they know that Black people also look up and follow some of these celebrities, and they are highly predatory towards Black people. And we're going to break down those numbers. I broke those numbers down earlier, but we're going to show in a little while the sister who's an academic who breaks it down academically for us. We're going to go to school today. Let me bring in right now, for the first time he's ever been on my platform, let me bring in Keep It Techie right now.
Hey, how you doing?
All right, brother. Welcome on board. Welcome on board, brother. First time on my platform, but I've known you from the YouTube streets, brother. You have great channel and great insight. I'm glad that you were in the chat room, that you got wind of this stream today. And I would like you to express to the people your experience with this, because you said that this is up your wheel wagon. Go right ahead.
Oh yeah. So when I graduated high school, one of the first things I wanted to do was join the Army. And so I joined the Army, but once I got back, I also wanted to go to college. And so I didn't do as well in high school. To be honest, I didn't graduate with the highest GPA, and I'm honest about that. I tell people about it. I use it as a way of letting people know that you don't have to, have the best grades, from high school or to get into the tech field. You know what I'm saying? And so I decided to go to school. Well, the reason I'm bringing up that my high school grades weren't good because I went to the local university, which was Southern University. I grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So they were going to start me off in somewhat of high school classes. And I didn't want to do that. So a friend of mine actually told me about Remington College, which they are on that list of colleges, with the predatory loans and all that stuff. So as soon as you walk into the building, it's almost like walking on a car dealership. They're basically trying to sell us to you, you'll make this much money, it'll, this is a great benefit or whatever. And they don't really cover the numbers. They try to hide some of that stuff, how much you're actually paying for this 2-year degree. And I've done videos where I've talked about it. I've told people I paid $30,000 for associate's degree at Remington College. And it wasn't worth what I paid for it. Now, one good thing about it, I had the military to lean on because of the GI Bill and all that stuff. They paid a lot of it. You know what I'm saying? But it was a total ripoff. It was kind of hard to get jobs after that, and it wasn't really a benefit.
Let me ask you this question, if you don't
Go
mind
ahead.
me. I got to ask you this question. I know that, a lot of times, especially on the YouTube streets, people will always, that's my little one in her room. But I know in the YouTube streets, sometimes we say as black people, some of us, let's not play the, oh, Mo is me, I can't make it because of racism and white supremacy and all of that. We know those things do exist. We should not let it stop us in what we're pursuing. But how much do you think, when you went through this experience, that there's a predatory design to target certain groups of people who are deemed people who may come from certain social economic backgrounds where maybe you didn't have the opportunity to go to a 4-year school. It was the only option maybe. How much do you think that plays into this too as well, brother? Coming back to you.
I think it plays, I think it plays a part. For instance, I remember seeing the advertisements online for this college. It was predominantly black people in the videos. They're pushing it to our community, and at a certain point, though, I do take responsibility for it, because maybe I should have done a little bit more in school. Because I actually graduated from a private school. Maybe I should have, really buckled down and focused on it. A lot of, a lot of black people, we tend to, not take school seriously, and we have to be honest about that. I know I did. I can only kind of speak for myself, but I do know, and the people that I've interacted with, we didn't, take school 100% seriously to where we could get, bigger scholarships and all that stuff for different colleges because of GPAs and all that. And so,
let me ask you this question. Would you say that it's attractive to groups, especially black people, people of the Latino community, because of the fact that they say something that we all can bite on, that, hey, you won't have to go to school as long, because we're going to streamline you right into what, because, when you go to a 4-year school, you got to take general ed and all this other stuff. Whereas one of these types of school, they say they're going to streamline you right into what it is that you want to do. And they sort of promote it as if you're going to save money compared to what you're going to pay in being in debt when you go to a traditional college. But now what we're finding out, let me tell you this, Brother Techie, did you know this, brother, as I was doing some research on this, and thanks to Ray Alexander, who's on here with us today, I found out, I didn't know this, these for-profit colleges and how so predatory they are. Do you know that they have gotten about $24 billion in student loan programs that they've been able to funnel into these schools? So the federal government has also been had, as well as the everyday person.
Wow.
Did you know that, brother?
No, I didn't know that. I didn't
so
know
not
that, but
only are we being had as the ones that are being marketed to. What's going on? TC HBCU Queen TV. Good to see you here, sister. The federal government's been had as well.
Wow.
And you know how the federal government is. When they find out that you're ripping them off, that's when they come in and they thrash, they throw down. And I'm going to show a nice little video in just a moment, because when you said something powerful, you said they use people that look like us to attract us. In this clip that you're going to see very soon, you're going to see black women, black men, and they pick the most, what you would call, people that look like they're from the community. And they're talking to you in that vernacular. Hey, if you want that education, man, this is the place to be, the stereotypical bullshit, right? Yeah. And so I can't wait to play that. But Ray, you want to step in here and ask, Keep It Tech, any kind of questions? Because he has experience firsthand in this type of predatory bullshit.
And can I add one more thing as well?
Yeah, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
One of the things they did throw out there as an incentive, coming from low income areas and all that stuff. One of the things they throw in there is, we'll give you a laptop, not knowing that that's tied to your tuition. Like they'll give you a $500 laptop where they say, you know, you getting this, you know, this laptop that you could keep after the program that you paid, or you took out student loans for like $2,000 for a $500 laptop. So that's all I wanted to add as well. Go
Wow,
ahead,
that's
Ray.
crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brother Ray.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, brother. Keep It Techie, man, because I do appreciate your work on and sharing on your Keep It Techie YouTube channel, and we just need to share people and steer them in the right direction. Because, like you said, you were earnestly trying to learn how to get into advanced technology career, and this sounded good. But when the information man shows you this sister who goes over how they were so predatory, their game plan was so thorough. They knew marketing, they knew the market that they were going to exploit, because they were looking for those federal loan dollars. They knew how to get that money out, and it was for profit, which is different. I mean, and but see, education is different. If they had placed you and got you where you wanted to go, you wouldn't be upset, and you would have been able to pay that back. In the government, what they do is just that their attrition rate is so high, only 14% of the students, stay in and so-called graduate. That's why the feds got on their case. But I appreciate that you were looking to be upwardly mobile, get into advanced technology, and build a career for yourself to support your family. But the issue is that the people who own these schools were not caring about what your goals were, even though they sold that to you. They were concerned about getting to those loans to make the profits, because some of those companies, like Education Corporation of America, they were traded on NASDAQ. So these were publicly traded companies. So they had to get a profit margin every 3 months. But you're thinking that, and then they got those very big office buildings. And you'll note it on that information, man. The majority of they did some research on that for U.S. Congress. The majority of these colleges, the revenue that they get goes on advertising, not even to train the students. That's what's sad too.
Right. This is what I'm going to do. I was going to play the other frontline video, but I think we need to hear from this sister. And I want to prep everybody. She's speaking in academic terms. So anybody that watches this video who makes the attempt to say, you don't know what you're talking about, this sister is going to break some things down to you that you may not know. She even said, and I was shocked by this, that, a lot of our people will go to school to learn how to do hair, right? What do you call that? Beautician school or cosmetology? I'm sorry, cosmetology school. She says even those types of schools, you can have the same sort of things happening. Because that's an industry that she has some expertise in. So I'm going to go ahead and just play. I can't play all of it because she goes very deep, but I'm going to play enough of it so you all get the idea of how this actually is impacting Black people. And then down the line, I'll play the other video near the end of the show. But I think we need to get this video with her first, because the things that she's talking about are so on point. So on point. So let me go right ahead and set this up. Hopefully this is exactly where we need to have it at. And here we go. And keeping it techie, I appreciate you coming on board. I'm going to put another link in the chat room. If anybody has had experience with these predatory schools that would like to add to the conversation. Ray, appreciate you being here again. Of course, keep it techie. You are God sent. You brought a whole perspective that was necessary today. So let me go ahead and click this and get this right. Make sure you get the audio connected. Yes, audio. You got to have audio, brother. All right. And let's play this. Let's play some of this.
And when you get on the red line, right? Those are the ones that had sort of pierced the awareness of sort of middle America. But there was also the second sector of for-profit higher education that has slightly less money to spend on branding and advertising, but that was still a very robust part of for-profit higher education. And those are the for-profit colleges that are like the beauty school, which is where I also work.
That's what I'm talking about.
So these are schools that are offering very narrow and specific credentialing for occupations, generally in occupations that do not require a college degree, but require some kind of licensure, often instituted by some sort of regulatory board. So in the instance of cosmetology schools, for example, is that in most states you have to sit for the state cosmetology license, and someone has to qualify you for doing so. Now, these schools are the ones that loom very large in the public imagination, gets the lion's share of the public policy attention and sort of public discourse and public media attention. But it remains true, and I always want to point this out, that it is still that the largest part of for-profit higher education are the places like the beauty college, right? And as we are trying to sort of legislate.
As a reminder, this is fair use under the 107 fair use law. When you are distributing any type of content that's based on education, criticism of anything that's video, disc, or anything for educational purposes, this is fair use, ladies and gentlemen, fair use.
And regulate this sector of higher education. One of my larger points is that we do so at the expense of not paying attention to the full spectrum of what the credentialing economy and for-profit higher education is serving, particularly who they're serving. So I've got three big points for my talk today that come out of the book, and I want to make sure I start with these and then I'll unpack them as I go along. The first is that when I started this project, we only had a couple of ways of thinking about how for-profit colleges existed and why they existed. So we had this sort of rational choice framework, which basically gets summed up as this. People, based on who they are, make a series of trade-offs about what resources they will pursue, right? So we make very rational choices, and based on who you are and where you are and what you think the trade-off is, this is how you decide where you'll go to college. Nothing wrong with it, but it's not my approach. Then we've got this sort of Neo-Institutionalist Framework, which was really the most dominant way of understanding for-profit colleges at the time that I started this work. And that was saying that for-profit colleges was this sort of innovative sector of higher education, and that when innovation was happening, there are always excesses, right? But over time, traditional higher education would pick up sort of the innovations of for-profit higher education models, right? Modify them, adapt them, sort of make them more legitimate, but at the same time also innovate traditional not-for-profit higher education. So in this model, what we saw for-profit colleges as were this sort of innovative sector that was going to prod along change in the stodgy, not-for-profit higher education sector. Both very interesting perspectives that did not answer the question, though, that I had. Both of these are really good at explaining what for-profit colleges are. They fail miserably at explaining why they are. Why they are. Rational choice theories assume that for-profit colleges exist because people want them, right? If that's the case, then we don't need to be overly concerned about regulating them because we are providing a consumer product to consumers, right? So I tell people all the time, well, yeah, people also want
and that's
cheese
a myth,
whiz.
ladies and gentlemen.
Really good thing,
what she just
right?
said it speaks to the myth
and
of
again, doesn't solve the problem of why, right? And it also tends to underestimate the extent to which people's choices are constrained.
Constrained,
right? And
that's
what
the
those
key word
constraints
here.
are. Neo-institutionalism tends to overstate, one, how resistant to change traditional higher education is, by the way, right? And overstate how innovative for-profit market higher education is, right? Understates one and overstates the other. I think if nothing else, sort of from the sort of institutional level work that I've done, if I could get out any idea, it is this: there's nothing really that innovative in for-profit higher education, and in fact, it is a very low-tech model of higher education
there
delivery
it is, folks.
overall.
Low-tech.
Most of the innovation actually in higher education has come from the not-for-profit sector, but the ideologies that somehow profit and being involved in the market makes it more innovative has had some stickiness to it. Credentialing, however, credentialing theory asks a different set of questions that were more interesting from my perspective. It asks, what is happening among different groups of people, right, that is both motivating them to pursue a credential and constraining what kind of credential they can pursue, right? Now that was a much more interesting question to me for a lot of reasons. So let's talk about what for-profit colleges are very quickly, because it gets to why I'm interested in this question. For-profit colleges are colleges that operate exclusively for profit, to extract excess tuition revenue for profit. So it's the transfer of tuition revenue to usually private or corporate shareholder owners in the guise of profit. The most likely for-profit college student is a woman and is a person of color. They are more likely to be poor than your typical student in the not-for-profit higher education sector.
Now, again, everybody, if we're going to say that black women go to college at a higher rate, a little bit more higher rates than black men, then what she's saying has fact to it, that black women would be the biggest, would be impacted by this the most if they have the highest numbers in college, right? Doesn't mean that black men are not impacted, but if they are the biggest users or attendees, let me say, to universities, then they would be hit even heavier because their numbers are higher. However, we're all being hit very heavily. Let me say peace to Larry's Anything Goes LLC. Gave me a $25 super chat, which I really appreciate. He says, "How goes it, info man? Keep shining out here." Thank you, my brother. I want to give you a clap.
Thank you for the super chat.
I appreciate that. So I just want to keep that in mind. Yet black men are impacted by this as well. But we're gonna continue on with what she's saying. I'm gonna play a little bit more of this before I stop it because she's breaking it down. I'm gonna move this back up. I'm sorry to be rude and cut into what she's saying because I like the fact that she's speaking in academics. This is stuff that I'm used to. Reminds me of the days when I was in the university. She's breaking it down. Of course, we would like to have just straight words, just say it plain, right? But let me just continue this.
So from my perspective of having worked in the sector, happen to be a member of the status group that is most likely to participate in for-profit higher education as an African-American woman from a lower middle class background. My questions about this were not what choices what their preferences were in higher education, but why this had become the dominant mode of higher education for these groups of people, right? And that was a social problem question. Yes.
You said negligible returns.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to explain that?
Sure. So negligible returns, yes.
You mean they don't get jobs afterwards?
Yes. The best case scenario, so the research on this is mixed. I do talk about it a little bit more later on, but the research on this is mixed. The best case scenario in the empirical research that we have right now is that attending a for-profit college will have no negative effect on your labor market outcomes. That's the best case scenario. Seriously, that's the best case. So that's what I mean by negligible, that even in positive terms, it's not that great. Right. So my starting point for this is that something must be happening in labor markets, right, that is incentivizing what kinds of institutions people attend, and that is not happening, that those options are not equally distributed, right? All of the constrained options are not happening across the board with different types of students in the for-profit college sector, that it seems to be happening most commonly for those that are what we call disadvantaged groups by race, class, and gender. Contrary to some of the assumptions that had come out of the rational choice theory, I also wanted to start at the position that students are not stupid. Right? That there was some value in the choices that they were making, whether or not we shared their value system, right? There's a moral economy to how credentials work, and I wanted to understand what the moral economy was for students who attend for-profit colleges, right? And I wanted to know what their sense-making framework was. How do they make sense of their credentials that are quite different from what we think higher education should work, and it's probably operating differently from how other people they know are attending college. And when they try to enter the labor market, how are they making sense of the value of their credentials? But then broadly, theoretically, those were the social problem issues, but I also had a theoretical problem, right? The first is that everything about our economic models about how social stratification work assumes that all credentials work the same. All credentials work the same. That's because for about 75 years, that's been true, right? But again, that was when higher education expansion was happening in the not-for-profit sector. Mm-hmm. This was different, right? And in fact, everything about labor market returns to the students who were participating in this sector said something different is happening for them. Yet our systems for how we model social stratification still assume that all of these credentials are roughly equivalent. Right? And one of the things I argue theoretically throughout this project and my other work is that if higher education credentials are going to continue to expand in the market sector, we've got to revisit everything we know about how we measure credentials in our economic and our sociology literature. That stratification is happening differently. So that was my theoretical problem and my social problem. So let's talk about a few numbers and how I went about answering that. So again, I'm interested in sense making. So I talked to students currently enrolled in the for-profit college sector. I wanted to talk to students who were currently enrolled and not previously enrolled for a few reasons. Everybody's feelings about their higher education institution changes when it's time to repay. Mm-hmm. Everybody's, right? In both the not-for-profit sector and for-profit college sector. And I didn't want to compound people's experience and sense-making of how they made sense of the symbolic and cultural value of their credential with now their experience of trying to use the credential on the labor market or as a voucher for the exchange of social status, which is how we use credentials, right? So the students I talked to are currently enrolled. I'm interested in their experience of the part of the for-profit college process that is most profit, right? That is most deeply enmeshed in the market-based system. And in the for-profit college sector, that is how they enroll students, right? So I focused on the enrollment process at 9 for-profit colleges. I chose them there's a model from the Institute of Higher Education a system of a classification system of for-profit colleges. So I chose them for their diversity. Basically, I'm looking at a few things. Are for-profit colleges organized the same way not-for-profit colleges are? Believe it or not, in the research literature, we weren't clear on this. Again, everything in our sociology literature especially was assuming that people went to for-profit colleges the same way they went to not-for-profit colleges, right? We didn't understand the admissions process. We didn't understand how that process might be shaped differently for different kinds of students, right? And so the very first thing I kind of needed to start with was whether or not this process was different and what was different about it. So that looks like me enrolling at 9 for-profit colleges over 9 months. And then again, I'm interested in sense making, and I'm interested in how market-based processes shape how for-profit colleges recruit and enroll students, and whether that is about their profit motive, about who the students are, or if it's some combination of the two plus some like regulatory environment stuff, right? So I talked to for-profit college executives. All of these people were at executive level function and above, so the sort of, you know, quote unquote C-suite of people. So these were the directors of enrollment or admissions, the directors of marketing, a couple of chief operating officers, et cetera. First, let's keep in mind empirically what our social problem is. Whatever is happening in the new world of higher education credentials in the for-profit sector, it's not happening for everyone, right? For-profit colleges disproportionately serve older students, women, African Americans, Hispanics, and those with low incomes. I'd like to expound on that just a little bit before I start to talk about the enrollment process, right? So we tend to think of for-profit credentials as, again, being those that are offering certificates at the lowest level of higher education. I always think it's important to point out that actually the fastest growing part of for-profit higher education for about the last 7 years has been at the graduate level.
Graduate level.
Right? They offer certificates in everything from, yes, I promise. And they offer everything in from certificates in auto mechanics to PhDs in clinical psychology. It is entirely possible, if you are an African American woman especially, for you to attend college from everything from immediately after high school all the way to a terminal degree entirely in the for-profit college sector. And in fact, that is increasingly what we are seeing happen. This represents an entirely different segment of higher education, but again, not for everyone. The fact that we don't know how that process works completely undermines our ability to know how education is working for those who need education the most, right? Because here's what we know about being African American and Hispanic in the labor market today. At every level of educational attainment, African Americans and Hispanics have almost roughly usually double the rate of unemployment as white workers. Right? African Americans with a college degree report having greater income volatility than do white workers with less than a high school diploma.
That's facts.
African Americans take on more student loan debt.
That's facts.
And can reasonably assume that they will be paid less at every level of educational attainment over their working life course.
Tell the truth.
The social problem then is not just about the fact that for-profit colleges exist, but for whom they exist, right? And what that means over the life course for people who are cycling in and out of the sector, which again is increasingly true for people who are cycling in and out of for-profit colleges many times over their working life course. If I have a favorite bad statistic, it's this one.
Look at that, everybody. Let me stop this. Look at this. Look at this. For-profit institutions, men 36%, women 64%. African Americans account for 13% of all students in higher education, but they are 22% of those in the for-profit sector. Hispanics at 15% of those in the for-profit sector, at 11.5% of all students. This is something else.
This is a gendered phenomenon.
I'm going to stop this right here.
64% of those enrolled in for-profit colleges as of 2004, I think fall 2014 are women. That's a relatively stable statistic. It's been somewhere around 65, 66% for the last 15 years.
Now, even though these statistics come from some years, a few years back, I can automatically tell you that this phenomena has not changed. This thing is ongoing. It is ongoing because these type of universities have continued their predatory ways. Let me continue this and then we'll get back to the panel.
Anytime you hear somebody talking about a story about for-profit colleges, assume that the face that they're talking about is a woman, right? So if we know what the sort of macro labor market returns are for African Americans and Hispanic workers, we can generally assume and be generally correct to assume that they are worse for women, African American women, Hispanic women, working class, and poor white women.
Yeah, but let me just say right here.
The nonprofit sector, women.
Let's not forget, white women have benefited from affirmative action. White women have benefited from programs that were set aside for black people coming out of civil rights. And white women live in a society that supports their move. Let's just keep that. And white women come from a society that is in control of the economic system of this country. Let's keep that in mind. This is where I kind of differ with what the sister is saying. Men are being affected. Black men are being affected. But the truth of the matter is there are more women, black women, that are in college, overall than black men. But however, I did a video some time back, ladies and gentlemen, where I did make mention of the fact that you do have a lot of black men that are in college in comparison that are incarcerated. I did a deep dive on that because we've been conditioned to think that all of us are incarcerated, and our incarceration rates are off the hook. They are off the hook, but there are quite a bit large numbers of black young men that are going to 4-year traditional schools that we often don't talk about. And I did do a video on that. I should probably do a new video on that as an updated video. I'm going to stop it right there. I think Identity with Hell is going to come on in. I'm going to stop right there. Pretty much what she was saying, gentlemen, as she went on from this point is she's talking about, at the end of the day, these students that she named, African-American women, black men, of course, too, Hispanics, they are preying on poor groups, and therefore they end up with a lot of debt. They end up with degrees or certificates that are worth nothing that they're written on. They end up in a lot of debt that they cannot pay off. And they end up in these schools that keep moving the bar and say, hey, you need to take this, you got to take this. So they also never end up with the certificate altogether. OK, and this has affected people in these areas for many, many years. So I want to say what's up to Identity Withheld. who's come up to join us
Well, what's up,
with his
Info
incredible
Man? What's
special
up, Cal?
effects and avatar.
I'm trying to do it big.
I want to stop it there. She does go on with some other facts. It is very academic, and I tend to like people just to say things plain, but she's speaking in academic terms at a university, and she's using all the $5 and $10 and $20 words. But we get the bottom line. At the end of the day, they are predatory towards our people, and our people are being given this. We're being given this only alternative. We see it all the time in some of our communities where the alternative is to go to the military, right? Or if you can't get into a college, or take on this unseen debt when you jump on and sign on the dotted line of these predatory for-profit schools. Another thing I want to add, identity withheld, before you say something, my good brother, is that I was reading through the materials that Ray Alexander sent me, and they said that they give these people a script. When you call up these schools, they will say, oh, I'm busy, I'm this and that, because they want to get you to come to the school. So they'll say, well, let's set up a date for you to come in and meet us. So they don't really want to do a lot of talk with you on the phone where you ask them a lot of questions. They want to get you down to the school so now they can run their game on you to get you to sign on a dotted line to join their campus so they can begin getting that government money off of you and putting you in debt. Identity withheld, brother. What you got to say, brother? Thank you for coming up board.
Well, no problem. I really wanted to just chime in real quick. You had mentioned anybody that had experience with this stuff.
Oh yeah.
So for me personally, when I returned back to school, mid-20s, somewhere around there, I returned back to college. And I wanted to jump right in. And I'm on the East Coast. So Stevenson or something, or one of those schools near Delaware or something. When I started asking specific questions, I noticed they were backpedaling. And I believe it was the DeVry. I think it was.
Now, I'm glad you said that identity withheld, because that's what one of the reports that I read is that's one of what they did is there was a report in NPR that Ray Alexander sent me, and they interviewed people who used to work for these colleges, and they spilled all the beans, all the 411 of the games that they played. Go right ahead, identity withheld.
Yeah. And that was the thing. I was more excited to get back in the game, right? Because I left college and I wanted to get back. So they definitely wanted me to come in, right? That was back in that time. It was common, but you can almost feel like they were pulling you to come in. And they started talking a lot about the financial aid I can get, and I can get a 2-year degree or associate's degree in a year and a half's time frame. Like they were selling it, but when I realized something was off was when I asked if I want to continue my education, where can I go? And they gave me one name of one supposed university in the entire country, which was Delaware Valley. I guess it was a university at the time. I don't know, but they gave me one school out of the entire country that I could take those credits. I said, wait, so that's the only place I can go? And they were kind of like trying to get off that topic. Like, you're asking a little too deep of where can you go next? The point is, do you want this education now? We can get it for you. And it made me pump my brakes a little bit because, and now looking back at it, I see now that I was ignorant to understanding the time I spend at this facility. I could be going for an associate's at an accredited university or college, junior college, that actually can transfer those credits to a higher education if I so choose. But fortunately, I was asking the right questions. I didn't realize how important they were at the time. That, this is telling me there's a ceiling to this. There is not you build on this. There's a ceiling to this, and that scared me. And that scared me from any school relative to that type of structure that they had, that they were selling to people. Hey, come get a degree, and less time it takes to get a 2-year degree, and it sounded great, but the limitations, they were definitely not going to let you know of those. And just to kind of close this out, I don't know if you remember information, man, or anybody in the panel. There was a time where car dealerships used to offer doing your taxes. Do they still do that? I don't know if they still do that.
I haven't heard about that in a long time.
Yeah, but that's what made me think of them, because I used to, thinking back, it's like, wow, you're willing to do my taxes? Yeah, because when the money comes in, they get it first. And they're gonna
Right, they're getting a kickback or something like that.
yeah, pick whatever car you want, because your taxes are gonna be your down payment. So they'll take that $150 hit that's doing your taxes in order to get that $4,000 check from the government, and they're willing to wait for it. It was
Right.
an incentive for them to do that. And I had that same feeling when I walked in the office of the financial, when we were start talking financials, financial aid, and how it was going to get paid for. And in my head, I kept thinking, wow, how do I get a 2-year degree in a year and a half? That's pretty cool. And I get a job, and they were selling it, but it made me think of those times where, wait, something's in here that you are really, obviously you're going to take something from the top on this, right?
Right.
So that's where I align it with. And, that's just kind of in my head.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Let me ask this question, Ray. Let's name the and keep it techie as well. Let's name the schools that are no longer with us anymore. They're gone because the government stepped in and said, we've had enough of you, get rid of you. Let's identify those schools that are now gone, and then let's try to identify the ones that's still running around, potentially could reap havoc. So we know that Divide University, whatever the hell, they're no longer here, right?
I think DeVry got fined, but they may still be here.
$191 million they got fined, right?
Mm-hmm. ITT Tech is there. They went under.
Okay, so ITT Tech is gone. I know Hills College, that's old school. They're gone a long time ago. That was more of a California type tech school. They got fined $30 million at one point in time, but they no longer exist. ITT is dead. This other one, Everston, I think I put it on the screen earlier. What's the status on this particular school, brother? Keep it techie. Is anybody aware?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I think they went Everett College. They went under. There was someone in the chat who talked about Le Cordon Bleu. They went under. That was a cooking or a French chef type school. They charged $30,000 for a 1-year certificate, and they were not placing people. They were doing some things that you could learn at a nice community college cuisine program, and it wouldn't even cost you $2,000. But they sold it to the degree that you were going to be this executive chef at this major hotel in Las Vegas or wherever, when basically the stuff that you learn, there are a lot of people working there. They went to those types of schools and they're working at, I wouldn't say they're cooking, but maybe not at that level. They're doing it at basic restaurants. They usually won't become a restaurateur, but I'd have to look to see which other ones. Which ones do you recall, to keep it techie, that got knocked out?
Well, I know a few of them that are still around. For instance, American Intercontinental University. That's one. Capella University. That's a for-profit school. I believe they were on a list a while back as well. Those are two that I could think of off the top of my head. Brooks College. Yeah, Brooks College was one as well. Or
Kaplan
Brooks
University
Institute.
went under.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But they're trying to rebrand it as Brightwood College. So a lot of the people that have been making that money, it was good money that the investors in it, they made really good profits off of exploiting poor people. So members of Congress were really trying to stand up for these people. But it's generally speaking, if the school is advertised on the radio, and they got a hip hop, not necessarily hip hop background in the music, it's probably not MIT, the one in Cambridge, Mass. It's probably not, you know what I'm saying? It's not have you heard Georgia Tech or Caltech or UC Berkeley do an ad on the radio station with a hip hop beat background information man? Or
I gotta be honest,
Keep It Tech?
I really haven't heard much advertisement as I did in the past when it comes to these for-profit colleges. So it looks like the government might be wiping them out. But I have a theory why the government is doing this, and people may agree or disagree with me. What I notice about the government is that when they shut down these universities or anything in society, they'll make it seem like they're doing it for the better good and welfare of people. But what I've learned is that the government doesn't like when someone gets over on them at the tune of billions of dollars. You can look at the drug trade. When you go back in the day and you look at someone like the South American drug lord, what's that guy? Escobar. You know the real reason why the United States was concerned about all that money, that drug stuff that was going on, because they realized somebody's making money and we ain't taxed it. We got all this American money flowing through South America that hasn't been taxed, meaning Uncle Sam didn't get a cut. So think about it. If $24 billion have been bamboozled from the federal government, the government steps in, not only because they want to protect people, that's just the window dressing. The federal government is like, nah, y'all not going to get over on us like this. So this is how it works. The federal government steps in when they stand to lose because they lost $24 billion at one point in time dealing with these for-profit universities. So I think they made it their job to wipe them out. Kamala Harris on the video that I'm going to show you in California, I believe she went after Hills College or one of these tech schools, right? Specifically because remember, she was Attorney General of California and the government wants their money. So I'm bringing this question up because if there are schools who potentially could be doing this, we need to warn people that they need to look into these schools a little bit more deeper, and if this possibility is there, so that nobody else becomes a victim, right? Because surely there's somebody out there that's probably under the radar right now who might be engaging in some of this stuff on a real low level, and we may not even know.
Yeah, and that's true. Let me add one thing. Identity Withheld made a great point earlier when he was first talking, and what I'm speaking of, he asked the question, where can I go after I finish this program? And that's the mistake I made. I didn't ask that question. I didn't find out till later on when I was deep into the program. Okay, this course or this 2-year degree cannot be transferred, because that was my plan. My plan was to get that 2-year degree to avoid having to take those high school courses that I would have had to take if I went to a traditional college. Just get that 2 years associate's degree and then continue on with my education at another university. Well, that didn't happen because I didn't ask that question.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quick question, Techie, I got for you, if you don't mind, information, man. Did your high school counselor kind of say anything about those types of colleges at the time? Or, did they kind of give any warnings about that those were not going to legit places to go?
No, they didn't.
Okay.
They didn't. I wish they did, but they didn't,
Wow. Ray, you want to add anything before I show the next video? Or at least a portion of this video?
No, go ahead and show that. I think with the show is.
I want to drive home the point with that portion of that other video that I'm going to show. But this is excellent.
I'm sorry, gentlemen. I gotta hop off, do some family stuff. But I just wanted to share my experience with the panel and the people listening.
I appreciate you. And anything else, let everybody know where they can find you at on YouTube, brother. I know you have a channel and all those good things.
Yes, Identity Withheld. Look for WP on the mouthpiece. I do a little bit of everything. Trying to step my game up and catch up with Info Man. He's my inspiration on these YouTube streets. So, you might see a little bit of him and me when you actually see me or hear me.
Hey, do your thing, man. You got it going on. I like the avatar too. You got that's some nice stuff right there.
Yeah, I'm trying to do some different things. I've never seen it like much, so I'm trying to do some different things, have some fun with it. You know what I mean? But before I go, definitely, I do want to hammer home the idea that even if you're not interested in continuing your education, just have it in the back pocket anyway. Because once you, and like my brother said, Keep It Techie was saying, he didn't realize it till he started going down that path. And it was like, oh, damn, but he's already in. So what do? Even if you don't plan on it, if you have it in your back pocket, it's always there. And I wouldn't say, to be honest, it's more of you said it earlier, it's not worth the paper it's printed on.
Right.
They're not necessarily selling you degrees. You can get an associate's and not really have a focus, right? You can actually, depending on your path, when you start delving into more techie, real deep stuff, start going into, bachelor's, master's, and all those things. When you start going deeper and deeper, you better have that foundation. And if there's a reason why they don't accept those credits, because most times they don't go to the depth that you need to build on. It's like skimming the surface. Okay, I'll teach you enough to be dangerous, but there's a ceiling to this. And unfortunately, a lot of us find out towards the end. And lastly, it's a business. I'm not necessarily upset that they take advantage of it, because it is a business, right? It's for profit. That part I'm not really, it bothers me, but at the same time, it's on us to let the people know what's going on as much as we can. It's on us also to utilize it, right? Take what you're hearing from here, use it, tell the next neighbor, this information should be shared, across the masses. But a lot of times we get caught up and don't know until it's too late. And then you got to start over. I don't know if you had to start over, keep it techie. I don't know if you did or not, but I'm sure it's rough to actually realize that later on and then say, I got to redo those classes anyway. But definitely, if you do not plan on going any further, it's okay. Just at least have that option to play in the event you change your mind 2 years down the line.
Right. Let me do this. Let me say I appreciate you identity with hell, brother. Let me give you a clap. Right on.
Thanks for the panel.
Anytime, brother. Anytime.
All right.
Great graphics there. Keep doing your thing. Let me say peace to Mike V. Mike V, I should tell you to come on up, because I know that you talk about these things, tech stuff and all this different stuff. I should probably drop a link in there, let you come up if you'd like to come up. Let me say peace to Barbie girl Tina. She gave me a great super chat here. I really appreciate that. And we got my man Sir Held Speaks Network, who's in the house. Really appreciate him. Have a lot of respect for him. He'll be back on the show very soon, everybody. But let me give you some much love there. Thank you. But this is the thing. I had a bunch of people. I think it was Empress Queen that gave me a super chat. A few people gave me a super chat. So let me go ahead and go with the celebration. I really appreciate you all.
Tell them run it all. I wake up. I wake up, flex, thumb down now, check, no drip this, wet. Tell them run it up, no sleep, no rest, might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch, tell them run it up, I wake up, flex, thumb down now, check, no drip this, wet. Tell them run it up, no sleep, no rest, might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch, tell them run it up. 9 out of 10, roll through my hands, I'm by my lonely. Turned to a savage, now my baby wants to hold me. I love my fans, don't need no friends, I got my homies. Thought I could trust you, I find out you tried to zone me. I'm number one up on that court, I'm Nick McGrady. The first one in, the last one out, can't call me lazy. Put in my hours, send the invoice and they pay me. I need 6 rings like MJ and Tom Brady. I wake up, flex, thumb down now, check, no drip this, wet. Tell them run it up, no sleep, no rest, might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch, tell them run it up. I wake up, flex, thumb down now, check, no drip this, wet. Tell them run it up, no sleep.
All right, now, thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate everybody that's here today. It's been a great show. We're going to get into the next clip, but I have another question that I want to ask the brothers on the panel. In particular, Keep It Techie, because he's had experience in these sort of situations. And I want to ask you right here, right now, brother, with the time that you have on the panel, have you, since you've had that experience personally, have you had to talk any friends or anybody that you know, or a young man out there in your family or someone that you know who was about to sign on to this disaster? Have you had to talk anybody out of the nonsense?
No, I haven't. Ran to anyone that was about to, sign that dotted line. But I have advocated for people to not go that route, if they can avoid it.
Okay.
That's the important thing about it. I mean, give people my experience on what I did and went through by going through that, and tell them the downsides to it as much as possible. Now, and then there is, and just to throw this in there is a new way of them going after people's money, and it's not the program itself. And this is starting to be done through boot camps, coding boot camps. One thing they're doing is income sharing. And I was going to bring this up later if we had time, but income sharing.
Go ahead and bring it up, brother.
They basically have you sign a contract where they get a percentage of the jobs that you take on once completing the course for a certain period of time. And I talked about this in a previous video on someone is suing behind an issue like this. And so it's, I don't know, this is just something new that they're starting to see, and people are starting to see and understand that it's a way of these companies being predatory towards people going through these programs.
Wow. Wow. It's crazy. Mike V, I left you a link. Let me say peace to BS3 Network. We're on Roku as well, ladies and gentlemen.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV. You are now tuned to BS3 Network. BS3 Network, changing the way you listen to podcasts.
Okay, everybody, there it is. BS3 Network. We're on Roku, so if you're at home and you have that package, you can check us out every Sunday around this time. And there's a great lineup on BS3 Network. You got a lot of sports talk. You've got ladies talk over there, men's talk, barbershop talk, the whole 9 yards. You have a whole lineup of people who give you great content. And this is filtered through Roku TV, all over Facebook and what have you. And I want to say peace and shout out to Brother Ben, who makes BS3 Network what it is and how it works. So thank you very much. So keep it techie. If you could just hang around a little bit, brother. And matter of fact, go ahead and let everybody know about your channel and where they can find you before I play a little portion of this video.
Okay. Yeah. I'm Josh from Keep It Techie. I have a YouTube channel here where I talk about the Linux operating system and different technologies to try to help people get into the tech field. And I do live streams as well, where I bring on different guests that currently work in the IT field, and they can give their experiences on how to actually get into it. And because we all, take a different path getting into this field, and so it's good to hear, others' way of actually getting into it and the different directions and the different jobs. And of course, everybody likes to talk about it, but the money that you can make while working in the field. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah,
man, I appreciate you coming on board.
No problem.
We got Little Hurdle. She says those boot camps are a racket too. My goodness, I was hired for one of those. I left it and it bothered my soul. So this is a sister here who had an experience. I did drop a link if you want to come on board. I did ask for people who have had legitimate experiences in this sort of stuff to come on up and give their testimony about this. I'll drop another link if you want to come up, sister, and join us for the time that we're still on. And we got my man Mike V is in the house with us, and we're gonna hear his thoughts in a moment. What I want to do, if everybody can be very patient, I got to show you a portion of this video. I'm not going to show the whole thing because it does go on, but I'm going to show you enough to reinforce what we're talking about and how dangerous these for-profit college scams, I call them, are to us as a people. And although it does affect all people who enroll in these type of colleges, it has unfortunately impacted the Black community at the worst level. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get ready to share the screen as usual and make sure I hit that audio button so that there's no shenanigans at all, and let everybody hear this.
Poetry.
All right, everybody. All right. The system kicked me out, so we're going to restart this again. Give me a minute, everybody. Sorry for the technical issues. All right. Let me just pop this back on again.
This is the next big scandal in America.
Sorry for the technical problems that I'm having. Mike V, I'd like to get your thoughts so far on this particular subject matter. I'm having some technical difficulties with the sharing, but I'm going to get this up and running soon enough. But while I do that, go ahead and let everybody know who you are and what your thoughts are about the particular subject matter we're talking about today, brother. Go ahead.
Hey, thank you for having me on, Mike from the Black Brain Trust. Have some experience with the for-profit college institutions that was brought up. And one of the institutions that I went to, the way they operate was a little bit different than some of the other for-profit institutions. They're kind of like franchised. So what happened in Massachusetts and Boston in particular was different than what was happening in some of these other states. And so my experience was very positive. It was expensive, but it was positive. And I graduated, to your point, with a majority Black class, more importantly, Black males. I did my undergrad in information security. And I had a very positive experience, but I also came out with a lot more debt than I would have liked to have.
Okay.
Now, the experience that I had was that my professors were actually industry people, and actually one of my professors worked at the same organization that I was working with at the time, and so I knew that he was fluent in his background in software engineering and software development. My other network security professor, he worked for Cisco, he worked for HP, all locally. All of these are locally sourced professors and adjunct professors, and I think the difference here is that the for-profit colleges offered more flexibility for working class people, meaning that I could work 9 to 5 and then from 6 to 10, I can go to class at night in order to speed up the process for attending the college. Whereas if I had to go to a state college, a public institution, there was no flexibility there. You had to go to class whenever they said, if class was 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., I couldn't do that if I'm working 9 to 5. It was just not flexible at all. And so the
Okay.
flexibility that I got from the for-profit colleges, from the for-profit college I went to, gave me the ability to get my undergrad in a record amount of time that I would not have at a public institution. Now, that's not to take away anything from the public institutions. I think the reason why you see a lot more Black people go there is because there's more, the bar is lower. It's set significantly lower for people to get in.
Right.
Most Black people are victims of the public education system, K through 12. And so,
Right.
we have to take these things into consideration that a lot of Black men would not have made it, in particular, would not have made it into Harvard or MIT or Division I, Division II, Division III school. They had to accept, the best offering, and unfortunately, those for-profit colleges played a significant role in that.
Well, let me say this. We had there was a sister on that I had earlier, Ray Alexander, who the sister, she has a book out and she was speaking in academics. What's her name again, brother? Mrs.
Professor
McNeil or
Cotton,
something?
let me see. It's called Lower
I had
Ed,
took-
The Troubling Rise of For-Profit Colleges.
Right.
Tressie McMillan Cotton.
Right. And what she was saying, Brother Mike, is that when you look at for-profit colleges versus private colleges or for nonprofit colleges, that when you look at graduation rates between Black people and people of the Latino population or community, should I say, they found that Black people still graduated at higher numbers from what we would call traditional four-year schools versus for-profit colleges such as the Verizon of the world and the IT Techs, those kind of schools, for example, that they ended up with actually having more debt than you would have expected from that we would have expected to usually be associated with a four-year traditional four-year college. And that particularly they had a predatory way that they sort of marketed with the commercials and targeted that particular group. Now, BS3 Network, my man Ben, he said, at the end of the day, all colleges are for profit to a certain degree. But the difference is that, once again, the for-profit colleges, they are completely for profit, whereas a lot of times colleges that are private or not for profit, a lot of the funds are going back into improving the educational experiences that you're having. However, it does not discount the fact that even in four-year traditional colleges, you can still leave school with a hell of a lot of debt and what have you. But Brother Mike, you're saying that from your experience, you had a good experience and that these colleges have served a purpose. Is that what you're saying? In some aspects positively, even though there are negatives. With all schools, there are negatives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think they fill the void that was created by the system itself.
Okay.
And so for-profit colleges, they kind of exploded with these welfare reform acts in the 90s under the Clinton administration, when they wanted to send a lot of people who were on welfare to college in order to get them off of welfare. And so you see the explosion of these sort of institutions, these for-profit institutions propping up. Now, to your point about what this woman was saying about, Black people graduating with more or less the same rates, but less debt or less debt than the for-profits. That may be true, but how did they get in the first place? Because a lot of times the people who are going to the for-profit colleges could not have gotten into some of these other private.
Well, actually, I'm going to put something up here and take over the screen. Actually, you make a very good point. I think that's one of her points, that a lot of times these particular schools will target students who otherwise, for whatever reason, weren't prepared the best to be able to enter traditional universities. So right here, this was one of the charts that she put up. She said that, and I made it a big time effort to emphasize this, that yeah, Black men are in college and we're impacted as well. But she was saying that a lot of Black women, if they are the largest number of Black people who are enrolled in colleges, that Black women are impacted at a little bit higher number just based on their numbers in terms of going to colleges. But we know that Black men are going to colleges too, so we're impacted as well. She says here, African Americans accounted for 13% of all students in higher education, but they are 22% of those in the for-profit sector. So, and I read some other statistics that show that we still graduate at higher numbers in a traditional school. Now, you are absolutely right. We have to look at how prepared were these students who went to for-profit schools who did not graduate at high numbers in comparison to black males and females who went to traditional colleges. Were they more prepared? Now, Mike, can I make this argument or this inference or make this opinion that is it fair to be able to say that black men and women who are going to four-year schools and graduating at higher levels, is it because they might be more prepared academically more than those that are going to the for-profit schools? I know that's a pretty polarizing statement, but what do you think?
I think I think you're onto something, right? And so for me, I dropped out of high school. I got my GED, and then I went to a vocational school for computer electronics. And that vocational school made me want to go further, and so I took the credits from that vocational school, and the for-profit school accepted them immediately. And so my ability to transfer to another institution, the rest of the colleges wouldn't have accepted it, like Northeastern University, so on and so forth. They wouldn't have accepted those credits, but the for-profit school accepted the credits. And so I was able to graduate in 3.5 years rather than the 4 solid years. And so being prepared, I was not 100% prepared to go in to a major D1 to D4 institution because I didn't have that academic background. Right?
Which is why sometimes people will go to a junior college, clean up whatever they didn't do in high school. Maybe they need to get a little bit more general ed classes taken care of, and then they'll transfer into a 4-year school, take care of all their general ed so they can go directly into the major itself. And that's what makes these for-profit, and you tell me, keep it techie if I'm right or wrong because you've had this experience, is the for-profit schools more attractive because it allows you, because they market this way that you can get in there and go right into your major or your studies hands-on. You can bypass all this general ed BS and just go straight into what you want to study. And that the goal is you can complete this degree in a faster, more efficient time and be out there in the workforce. Is that an example of what they sold to you?
Yes, it is. It's 100% that's one of the reasons why I hopped into this program as well, because I was already working a job. I had joined the military and I came back and I was on active duty orders. So working 9 to 5, that was one of the reasons that one of the selling points for actually hopping into this program. But I just had a quick question for Mike. So Mike, with the I understand you said a lot of your instructors, were in the industry. They actually worked in the industry. Like, did you know that before you actually went to the school? Like, did you do a lot more research beforehand before you actually took upon or signed up for that program?
Yeah,
asking.
Yeah, because when you do a tour, they let you see what's going on in the classrooms. You get to sit and audit the class if you want to. You can specify that. But when they have the roster of adjunct professors, they show who they are, where they work locally, and you can kind of look at their LinkedIn profile too. And so these sort of things matter. That's what inspired me to go, because that was like, oh, this brother here, he's an Afro-Brazilian, but he's a chief architect for Cisco or some other network organization. And it's like, and he's on the board of directors at some other organization. So you can kind of track where some of these people are actually going. And a lot of the professors were actually very sympathetic to Black men being in these for-profit institutions, because they're saying, hey, this isn't the best thing for you to do, but we're going to make the best out of it. And so, my other networking professor, adjunct professor, he's Moroccan, he's an African brother. I didn't have this sort of distasteful experience that other people have had. And I think that needs to be, brought to light, that not all for-profit schools are this disastrous situation that many people end up in. I think, the desire, and we're talking about Black women here, the desire to fill these sort of med tech roles, these sort of, medical assistants and stuff like that. That's where a lot of Black women ended up in, and those colleges burned down after 2008.
Right. I think in the video that I'm going to show you, a portion of it shows that there was a medical assistance program or some type of RN program for nursing, and they ended up going defunct because they were, ripping the students off and what have you. But I got to be honest with you, though, Brother Mike, all respect to you. There has been a whole lot of these for-profit colleges that have been found to be predatory, from the Federal Trade Commission down to the Department of Education in their investigations. There has been a pattern of some mishaves. I'm not saying that there may not be a for-profit university. You went to one that may be on the up and up, but there do seem to be a lot of shenanigans going on. I'm not saying that you don't have shenanigans at traditional universities, but what I'm saying is the investigations have played themselves out. Let me go ahead, as I now finally have this thing ready to go, and let's play a little bit of this. And let me say peace to everybody in the chat room. Sister Weenie is in the chat room. Tiffany Jackson made a good point here. I got to be honest. I want to be fair and balanced here. She said, Tiffany Jackson said this: BS3 network is exactly its facts. Higher education, D1, D2, Ivy Leagues, it's complete racket. So much revenue generated through classes, books, rooms, and boards, and college sports and tickets, etc., that it is a money-making venture. Oh, yes, it is. You're not lying. That's not forget all that money they made off of Black folks sending our kids to these traditional schools, and before they start now making it possible for them to now make some money, they made a lot of money off of our people, these traditional schools. Let me go right ahead and play this video, a little portion of it, folks, and I hope everybody can hear. If you can hear the video, please hit a 1 in the chat room.
This is the next big scandal in America.
Washington also started paying attention.
Reminds me where we were 2 years ago with
The GAO investigated found instances of fraud, deceptive practices, or made misleading statements to prospective students. 15
In this hearing, they unveiled hard evidence.
And then just signing date right there for me.
Okay, now I'm not signing up for the school right now.
Yeah, you're actually reserving your seat.
Oh, I was hoping I could talk to the financial people
No, they
first.
won't even let you back there.
Am I be on the hook for the
Fair use under 107. Fair use
is that it was really hard in the face of this evidence to deny that there was a problem there.
You should be ready to make the investment of time and money necessary to get you to where you should be at this point. But you're not. What are you really afraid of?
Congressional investigators also found that for-profit schools were failing to prepare students for the workforce.
Too many of the students who go to these schools are coming out with nothing other than big debt and no education, no gainful employment at all.
In 2010, the Department of Education attempted to regulate the industry by implementing some new rules. But the department ran into intense resistance.
The lobbyists for the for-profit industry, and unfortunately many members of Congress, challenged those regulations, critiqued those regulations.
This so-called, quote, gainful employment, unquote, regulation is another example of this big federal government run amok.
They were overwhelmed. They ran into this withering artillery fire of lawyers coming after the administration and beat them back.
Well, they're doing everything they can to screw up education. We finally get an institution.
The fact that the sector has declared an existential emergency around this. The sector has every lobbyist in town, former members of Congress on its payroll to defeat this, really kind of speaks volumes about the level of corruption and the kind of feeding frenzy we're talking about.
Last week, when the House of Representatives voted to prevent the Department of Education from implementing tough new rules that could deprive certain schools from federal funding.
Trump University. It's been the subject of increased scrutiny ever
Today, allegations of predatory behavior and negative press continue to dog the industry.
Well, the Clintons got filthy rich off a for-profit university that took advantage of many poor people.
But since I last reported on these schools, a lot has changed.
Are the for-profit schools value stocks or value trash?
One of the big losers, though, that was Apollo Group that operates the University of Phoenix. Its
For-profits are no longer the darlings of Wall Street, and enrollment is way down. In San Francisco, I talked with Trace Erden, a banker who kept buy ratings on several for-profits for much of the last
University
decade.
of Phoenix.
They're into decline. Why?
Mostly market conditions. The economy recovers and everybody finds a job. And then all of a sudden, that trade-off that said, well, hey, wait a minute, why should I borrow all this money so that I can earn the same amount of money that I can earn at Jamba Juice? That doesn't make any sense.
You have termed these students that are signing up for these courses as subprime borrowers.
I knew that was going to come out. Yeah, they were subprime borrowers. I mean, that's a fair characterization of the types of students that are being served, right? These are unsophisticated students that have a great deal of risk. Now, that's not true across the board with for-profit education, but certainly when we're talking in the context of Corinthian.
Corinthian, that's the for-profit chain that included Everston College.
Evans College, we talked about that a minute
those
ago.
3 nursing students had attended. We looked one of them up, Martha Salmon, and found her living in Southern California. Martha had paid back the $28,000 she owed in student loans, but at a cost.
That was money that could have gone towards my house or for my kids. It could have gone a lot of different ways, but I just wanted to get rid of it.
Her degree from Everest never resulted in nursing work, so she was forced to start over.
I got my RN from Citrus College. It's a community college in Glendora, and from day one, the start of that school was totally different from Everest. There's really no comparison. For our psych rotation at Citrus, the RN program, we went to a psych hospital, and we were there for 4 weeks, and we were able to interact with the patients. We followed the nurses while they gave medication. It was an actual psych hospital. It wasn't a museum.
And how much did it cost you to get a degree from a community college?
My RN cost $3,000. But it's the education that you receive, the money that you save there's no comparison.
Stories like Martha's got the attention of California's Attorney General. In 2011, Kamala Harris started investigating.
As we started diving into it, it became clear that Corinthian was engaged in extremely predatory behavior and conduct. And so we sued.
This morning, my office filed suit against Corinthian colleges. And in what can only be described as a for-profit college predatory scheme.
A lot of what you charged was that there was a misrepresentation of job placement rates.
Absolutely. Convincing students that if you sign up to receive an education, we will ensure you will also get a job. That was all, I'm going to say a polite term, that was wrong and inaccurate.
It was BS.
It was BS. It absolutely was.
Harris based her complaint on interviews with over 100 employees and students, including Holly Harsh and Brian French, the homeless students at Corinthian's Heald College.
It's okay, pretty girl. Hi.
Holly and Brian had dropped out of Heald in their 3rd semester, but the bills kept on coming.
And I was just like, how am I going to pay this?
Yeah, we still got bills coming out. They still want their, $288 a month that they want to get from us.
For you?
Oh, for me alone.
Can you afford that?
No, not really. We're living paycheck to paycheck as it is. Kind of what I say I got from Heald was at $16,000 T-shirt. And that's what we got.
Holly Harsh, Brian French, homeless, recruited to sign up for government loans to go to school. Is that an extreme case? Are they outliers?
Anyone is a target. They were targeting the most vulnerable and desperate people. People who felt that they were without resources. This was by their own marketing materials.
And how do you explain that there are people that would want to take advantage of people like that?
It's greed.
Everston College is accredited by the West Coast
Look at
Commission
this.
of non-accredited schools. You can learn anything.
Corinthian would fast become the poster child of predatory for-profits.
see
Videos
this?
lampooning Corinthian flooded onto YouTube.
Once again, we talked about this earlier, Ray Alexander, everybody on here on the panel, how they were using black people in these stereotypical manners. You got one guy drinking out of a 40 ounce. You know who they're trying to push that energy towards. This guy right here promoting Everston College. See, this is what they were doing. And it tells you a lot about how they see us, but how disrespectful this kind of marketing is. This is ridiculous. Let me move this back just a little bit. I want y'all to see this again. Pay attention to the advertisement and how they got these so-called black folks behaving.
Unaccredited schools. You can learn anything.
Corinthian would fast become the poster child of
Look at that.
predatory for-profits. Videos lampooning Corinthian flooded onto YouTube.
You're probably just sitting at home watching Maury. I like Maury. I want to know who the daddy is too.
Oh my
Make a
God.
decision, make a choice. You gotta call Everest. You still here?
See
By
the BS?
2013, California's Attorney General would share her findings with the Department of Education. Soon after,
Play a little bit more of this
officials in
and then I'll end
Washington
this.
decided to
Come
cut
back
off
to
the
the panel.
flow of federal funds until Corinthian could back up their claims of job placement.
The way financial aid typically works, it's almost like they give the institution a credit card, and they can, in anticipation of getting that bill paid by the Department of Education, they can spend the money in advance. What the Department of Education said is basically,
Ooh, he's got a brainiac
here.
hit on
Said,
him.
no, we need to verify your expenses before we get reimbursed.
We're in the peak of sort of the highest amount of worry right now. There's very little.
Erden was monitoring the company, and he told me that for most of the previous year, the CEO of Corinthian, Jack Massimino, was downplaying his problems.
He would say it's going to be fine. We've put these things in place and it's all going to be good. And, the students are coming. Trust me. They're always extremely optimistic, right? So it's the job of people like me to try to filter that a little bit.
Did you ask that question? Are you
Yeah, I think
defrauding
so.
students?
Well, no, I probably wouldn't have phrased it that way.
Maybe you should have.
Probably would have. Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have.
I then asked him about the Department of Education withholding funds from Corinthian.
I knew something the department didn't know, which was that withholding that much cash from them would precipitate a crisis, right? So I knew that part. What I didn't see coming was that the department would actually do that to them.
Without the influx of federal funds, top executives at Corinthian saw the writing on the wall and prepared to file for bankruptcy.
For-profit college provider abruptly closes its campuses. KPX5's Kit
On the morning of April 26, 2015, thousands of students woke up to hear the news.
As of today, school's out for good at Corinthian colleges.
It was the largest college shutdown in history.
Placed after the sudden closure of 28 Corinthian
Hills College.
School is over for thousands of Southern
crazy.
California students. They've just learned their
Students were left wondering what would happen next.
Corinthian colleges goes under, leaving 1.2 billion with a B in federal student loan dollars in play, and the people who did it are on their estates or on their yachts enjoying the fruits of their labor.
Right.
Concerns. These are federal loans these students have. So as a taxpayer, why shouldn't I be concerned about them?
Officials at the Department of Education were trying to determine who should absorb the loss.
For all those students who had gone through Corinthian
Well,
these last
exactly.
couple
Some
of
of whom may be carrying quite a bit of debt.
Right.
And as we now know, probably have very poor job prospects relative to what they were promised.
There was so many students, so many campuses. There was no policy that could really handle that sort of scale. Again, remember the times when campuses have closed before, we're talking, a few hundred students, right? A couple of campuses. Then the Department of Education would be on the hook for the billions of dollars that those students might have outstanding in loans. And they were not particularly enthusiastic about taking on that sort of burden.
Instead of refunding the students, the department midwifed a sale of 53 Corinthian campuses.
What they told me at the time was we were afraid to turn loose on the economy or into community colleges and other universities, so many students at one time.
Too big to fail?
Sadly, that's what
a damn
it sounded
shame.
like. I never bought it from the start. It just didn't make any sense.
The buyer was a nonprofit specializing not in education, but in student debt collection.
Wow.
Well, I don't get it.
Listen
I
to
don't
this.
get it. So this debt collector that collects bad debt for the Department of Education buys a whole slew
Here comes the
of
con game,
Corinthian
everybody.
colleges.
Yes. With the Department of Education, which is the regulator and the enforcer and the sheriff in town, actually stepping in to broker the deal.
We are Everest. We are Wyatech. We are Zenith Education.
Hey, Information Man, you muted.
I'm going to stop that right there and bring, could you hear, I guess nobody could hear what I had said before, but once again, this is fair use, again, under federal law, allows criticism, allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyright motion picture, videos, tapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use under 17 USC 107, fair use, and showing those particular videos today. Let me get back in here to our guest on the panel as we get ready to closing out. And so anyway, I just wanted to give people a little taste of that. I want to know what everybody thinks up here. I know, Mike, you said that you had a different experience in the school that you went to. You don't have to name the school if you don't feel comfortable doing so. What's going on, Stephen Gilmore YouTube channel? Thank you. Let me see your transcript. You've been rocking in the chat room, and the Queen is here. Empress Queen is here. Keeper 116 is here. Tiffany Jackson, all the people that come over here. Sir A. Jones is in the house. I thank you for being here. After seeing that portion, as we get ready to close out very soon here, gentlemen, what are your thoughts?
What I can gather from the video was that the lobbyist portion of it, there were people who were former elected officials who worked within the government who lobbied on behalf of these institutions, who are also shareholders or directors on boards of these institutions.
Yes.
And so this wasn't just, a for-profit college, thing. There were all types of people involved in making this thing function in the way that it did.
Yes.
And so, which is why I don't really speak too much about it, because, Janet Napolitano, she was on the board of University of Phoenix. No one talks about that. She worked, in Washington.
Yes.
These people made a lot of money off of these for-profit colleges too. And so we should also hold these people accountable rather than to just look at the for-profit colleges. There's no way a person that worked in Washington, either active or former, should have been able to collect or been involved in that process. They shouldn't have been involved in the process at all. There should have been a conflict of interest.
Yes. I hear exactly what you're saying. Good point. Good points, brother. Ray, you've been quiet for a while now, brother, as we get ready to close out. I want to thank you for bringing this particular issue to my attention. And as always, another classic one that we've done together. And this panel is what made it really work. But Ray, what are your thoughts? Anything you want to drop on people in terms of some of the research you've done around this issue? I think Brother Mike V has a good point. There were politicians and other well-known people who did reap some benefits from this situation. And as you saw in the video, as you had a chance to see on the video there, they had people who were usually the ones collecting the debt from the students. Now they're going to put them in a role as being the good people to work with them. Kind of interesting, I find. The wolves are now trying to serve the people. Ray, what do you got to say?
Well, thank you for having me today. And that's the nature of the issue on this. Professor Cotton was showing clearly that the people who are most vulnerable and marginalized are the greatest victims of these. And what happens, you have the lobbyists and other people, they're going to make their money on this. Our objective was to warn people that these are not the best options. There might be an exception to the rule that would prove the rule, but for the most part, they have damaged people's lives. People were not even able to get into the industry at the level that they wanted. And although there may be a few for-profit colleges that accept it, you're still going to be competing with people who actually have degrees, as Mike was saying, from Division 1, 2, and 3, and 4 universities as you want to rank up. If you're comfortable doing somewhat of a low-level tech support or technical position, but you don't want to see yourself as director of information technology for a major company or government agency, if you don't want to see yourself as chief financial officer or chief technology officer for a school district or for a government agency, then those would be things that you want to do. But I think that what we want to do is steer people to where they'll have the best outcomes. And what Mike also emphasizes that we need to do a better job in making sure that K through 12 education adequately prepares our boys and girls for competitive STEM careers. And so the shortcomings of the K through 12 education, and that's also what Professor Cotton talked about, are the reasons that those people are victimized by the shiny object syndrome of these nice office buildings, these people selling these dreams and being victimized by debt and not really getting the careers. Part of the reason I became aware of this, I work in finance as well. And what happened is that our software is pretty much licensed by Accenture. Mm-hmm. And every 3 years we have to do upgrades and everything. And when we're talking to people, interacting with people, very, very rarely are there very many blacks of the consultants that are black. However, none of them have come from those types of schools. They may not have come to MIT, but they've gone to state-supported schools, some smaller private schools, and these are premier jobs. We also interact with Deloitte Technology and also Dell Technology. So a lot of these places, it is like she said, it is a class trap. If you're born lower middle class from a working class background, you go to those type of poor schools, then you want to make something of your life. What happens is they entrap you with debt and false hope. Now, if they were able to give you a foundation that you could take somewhere and build, I would be okay for it. Yes. And if it was less than 1%, but the graduation rate is only 14% at these for-profit schools. Yes. And so that's problematic as well. But I do understand, but what I don't want people to get is that we're not knocking the people who attended that, because this was a strategic predatory operation to get these students who were vulnerable to get federal government loans so that they can use those loans for for-profit colleges. However, by and large, most of the students did not profit as far as getting careers that they could build upon, as far as building the type of they were sold a book of dreams, and they were not competitive with the people who went to some of the, for the private institutions, and that Carnegie Mellon, or not even Carnegie. If we're talking about just mid-tier colleges, community colleges, and the state technical colleges, those are better options, and they usually have agreements with these corporations. Like right now, North Carolina is building the $1 billion campus. Apple is building the $1 billion campus. These states usually have agreements with training programs, just like Samsung is building a new multi-billion-dollar fabrication plant outside of Austin. Well, they have with Austin Community College as well as the Taylor Independent School District, they have training programs so that people will know exactly what they need to do. So there will be people that are coming. So those are the better options. They're more affordable. Just like the young lady said, she went to Sistrix College, which is a school in California, got her nursing degree for $3,000. There's a for-profit nursing school called West Coast School of Nursing. They're not just on the West Coast. It's like $60,000 for a 2-year program, and then you still won't be able to get into a BSN program because Bachelor of Science of Nursing program because they won't accept the credits. So I don't want people to feel that we are attacking the victims of this. And we also want to continue to people to go to higher education, just do a very thorough job of understanding what these schools are about and try to go to the school that gets you the best return on investment.
Right. I got an announcement to make. I have an announcement to make, and let me just say this real quick. Let me say to Emerald Family Entertainment 7, much respect to you, brother. That's a very good channel. Definitely check out that brother and his wife. He is very inspirational. I listen to him. The brother is very inspirational. The Emerald Family Entertainment 7. Of course, we got the real Aaron Collins. We got Tiffany Jackson, Empress, Queen, Goddess is in the house. We got Keeper 116 is in the house. We got 0580 in the house. Natural is in the house. Natural, I saw you today over in what's that? Alberto Blake's neck of the woods. I listen to Alberto Blake all the time, and he gives me inspiration for my Info Media Live channel where I give tips and strategies about building a YouTube channel. So I saw you over there and you joined this channel. That's fantastic. I haven't turned membership on this channel, but I will be doing that soon. But Natural, was good to see you over there. He actually shouted you out as a new member of his channel. I don't know if you missed that or not, but thank you for coming over. I see you in the chat room. And I got to give some respect to Let Me See Your Transcript. She dropped a very good article about Trump University. I pulled it up. This was in MSNBC News. It says here, because we noticed that a lot of things around this issue has not been addressed. It says here that the federal courts approved a $25 million Trump University settlement. The federal courts approved this settlement with students who said they were dumped by Donald Trump's university and that they were defrauded. So this situation is a problem. And the man who was president at one time, and there was some talk about his university, they have settled a $25 million lawsuit against Trump and his university, or the university that he once had. And we saw in this video today, he said he would never get involved in education. But hey, maybe everybody is right. Education is another racket that you can get into to make money, because you can always charge the federal government because you make the students get the student loans. You give them those programs. Now, when I was in school, there was Cal Grant B and A and all that sort of stuff that you could get, and the government would subsidize, the education. But I walked away with a degree, so I ended up getting what I bargained for, and I didn't have any type of drama. I went to a traditional university. Now, before I end this, I got to go back over to Brother Mike. You said that you didn't have this nightmare experience as other people, as what we're playing on the video and what people have said. Keep It Techie, he had a experience that he was not happy about. Let me say peace and respect to Red Squid X Files. He's in the house. And someone just super chatted me. If I can find her let me go over here. Sister Buckner has, man, it's been a minute since I've seen you, my sister. Thank you for the super chat. $4.99. Hey there, Info Man. Long time no see. Keep doing your thing. Hey, keep doing. Hey, you need to come back on over here, sister. We've been doing some big things over here with a lot of other content that we've done today. You know, sometimes we don't like to get the educational component of what's going on. We like the polarizing content, and you know that gets you the big views. But this actually, to me, is more important because this is content that you can use in your real life. Now, Brother Mike. Let me say it again. Maybe you said this and I just had too much earwax in my ear. Why is it that you believe that you had a better experience, just as we get ready to close out here, in a for-profit college versus someone like Keep It Techie, who had, if I'm correct, tell me if I'm wrong or right, brother, he didn't have a great experience. What was the difference between the two of you? You're both on the panel now. Let's try to figure out the contrast and difference if you're open to that.
Yeah. I didn't know what Keep It Techie's experience was, but prior to coming up here, but my experience was different primarily because the adjunct professors that I had were all experienced and actively in the field that they were disciplined in. And so when you go to some of these D1 to D4 schools, a lot of the times those adjunct professors, those professors really don't have any real world experience. They have academic experience, but they don't have real world experience. So a lot of the things that they're trying to teach you is not 100% can be replicated in the field itself. And so, for example, one of the community colleges I had attended before was still teaching Windows NT 4.0 at the time. Well, the for-profit school was already moving on to Windows 2003. It's just a big those minor differences. It sounds like minor difference on the surface, but when you go out in the real world, you go to a job interview, you can speak to the latest technology because you're kind of trained up on it. And so for me, the experience in the for-profit colleges allowed me to touch and deal with more real world things than what some of these community colleges and state-run colleges had available, and there was no flexibility in scheduling. Everything was kind of hard coded into the time slots that they had available.
Okay, I'm going to go over to Keep It Techie. Could one make an inference that you just had the role of the lucky dice, Brother Mike, that you just happened to go to one of these particular colleges where you just happened to be blessed with legitimate professors who had legitimate intentions to provide you with a quality education that prepared you in your occupation, versus someone like Brother Keep It Techie who had a experience that was more predatory. Let him speak for himself, brother. Let's hear your experience again in comparison and contrast to Brother Mike.
Yeah. So, and this is the point I was going to bring up based on what Mike V said, and really why I asked that. Yeah, and why I asked that question earlier about him being introduced to the instructors and all that. That's something that was not offered to me at the college that I went to, and which I thought was super interesting. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I kind of want to leave this thought to most people. I mean, you need to do the research before you actually sign on that line, because trust me, if I had the knowledge that I know now and asking those questions, because I was just going with the flow. I'm 20 something years old trying to figure out what I want to do. If I had the mindset I have now, then I probably would have asked those questions a whole lot more, and actually similar to what Mike did, it seems like he did a lot more research on which they didn't give me that opportunity to even know what the instructors' names were. But that was awesome that he actually, experienced that. I didn't have that experience, and I didn't, just like when the other guy that was on here, I didn't ask those pertinent questions. Can I transfer these credits to another university? Because that was the plan. That was the goal, to actually transfer it so I can get a bachelor's degree. Now I end up finding a college online that was able to accept I would say 65% of those credits that I got from that school to eventually get a bachelor's degree. But
yes,
I wish I had asked those questions, and that's why I want to leave that with people. Do your research on these companies, and hopefully that ties to what you were saying, Mike.
Yeah, Mike V is
yeah.
actually, I'm glad that Mike V is on the panel today, because you brought a little bit of balance. You brought balance because we have someone who didn't have a great experience and you had a good experience. So that shows you that sometimes things can work out. But I really think, once again, it all depends on the people who are teaching you and what their true intentions are. Mike V, continue.
To your point, information man, you could not have graduated in EE at this for-profit college if you couldn't pass that final exam for some of the electronics courses, electrical engineering courses. They had all the equipment, all the oscilloscopes, they had all of the equipment. The junior colleges and the community colleges, they didn't have that equipment. And so there was a lot more money invested into the equipment based on what the adjunct professors were saying that was needed in order to teach people.
So because they were nonprofit, they had more funds to be able to spend the money on all the proper equipment. Could I make that argument?
Yeah, for profit. That's what
I'm sorry. Because they were for profit, it allowed them to have the funds that was necessary to get you all the equipment necessary.
Right, because what happens here is what I was saying before about the franchising of these for-profit colleges. What one college does in, let's say, Indiana is different than what the college in Massachusetts was doing. And so when the adjunct professors come up and say, hey, this program says that we are, this is an EE program, but we don't have any soldering equipment. We don't have this, and that. There's a budget that was set aside for those adjunct professors to go out and buy from wholesalers or volume sellers that can actually get this equipment for them in a record amount of time. And so that type of money was actually being spent to actually for the students. Now, the other point that I want to make here is that the curriculums are pretty much the same across the board because they have to be if you have an X amount of colleges around the country that are operating off of the same platform. And so what happens here is you get there's a necessity to try to streamline as much of the program as possible so that you're getting the maximum output from it, because you couldn't have graduated with a C minus or anything less than a C minus. You couldn't have graduated. It would have been impossible. Right. And so when some people say that, well, if you want to be like a director of operations or C-suite person, that doesn't necessarily translate in the tech world. Because I know a lot of people who graduated from D1 schools who should not be in these high-ranking positions at all. There are actually a lot of nepotism in the tech industry that allows upward mobility for white candidates than it does for black candidates who come from HBCUs and whatnot. And so I've seen that firsthand, and I've been a part of NISB for a number of years.
I'm familiar with NISB, yes.
Yep, I'm a part of Region 1, and we've had these discussions even during the pandemic about diversity, inclusion, and equity, and how that has not always played out well. I mean, post George Floyd, you hear a lot more talk on LinkedIn and whatnot, but in reality, Black people only make up 3 to 5% of the tech industry as it stands right now.
Yeah.
So why do we still have this issue if we have all of these HBCUs and all these PWIs and all these Black people graduating from them? I don't think it's the for-profit colleges that's the problem here. I think you still have an issue with nepotism and racism, white supremacy in the workplace, in the industry as a whole, and compound that with the academic portion of it, right? Because if you take into consideration for-profit colleges fill that void that you from a capitalist standpoint, you don't want to leave nothing on the table. And so those people became the capital.
Right. But I would make the argument that, when it comes to Black people, maybe we need to steer our kids away from sort of the humanities type of studies, psychology. Maybe we need to be stirring our kids towards technology, STEM, tech. Me and Ray did a video about the semiconductor microchipping. Maybe we need to be, because if you look at Black people, we, a lot of times especially when you have Black women in particular, and there's no disrespect to them, but a lot of times when they get degrees out of college, it's humanity type courses. It's teaching, and teaching's very important. It's English. Maybe they're getting a degree in psychology, right? Whereas something more technical like STEM, engineering, computer engineering, these are disciplines that earn you a lot of money, and they're in high demand. But do we as a Black community steer our kids in those directions? Or do we sort of just say, hey, go, get a degree in whatever? We just glad you in college, right? Thank God you in college. But are we going about picking the right degree? I remember when I was in school, they had a what do you call it? Where you go to this center and they tell you what is the job prospect for a particular major that you pick. What is the future where that job is going, so that you might want to make a couple of changes and adjustments in what you are doing. Of course, nothing wrong with being a teacher, but we know that teachers don't get paid very well, at least at the high school level and, the younger level teachers. So
with NISBE, I was a part of the PCI, the Pre-College Initiative for K through 12.
Okay.
And so I was a part of that. And so you have to create that, that pipeline that goes from K through 12 all the way up to post-secondary education, and then follows them all the way through to the job placement or industry placement. You don't really have that in the public school sector. I mean, probably now you do have it, but 10, 15, 20, 30
not as
years
much
ago,
as you used to.
That was unheard of back then, to have a program like that.
And remember, Mike V, they took a lot of technical programs out of high school. Remember, you actually had I'm sorry. Thank you for the correction. They had vocational programs. You could learn mechanic technology in high school. It took a lot of vocational stuff, and I think that really hurt. Particularly, it hurt our people, because a lot of our people, we got skills like that in coming out of high school already, having some of these skills. So I don't know, brother, but I thank you for your input today. Let everybody know where they can find you in the Brain Trust and everything like that, brother. Thank you. I got to get my butt back on over there, but go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you in the program and the days you go live over there and what have you, or upload videos.
Yeah, definitely youtube.com/the Black Brain Trust. So you can definitely find me over there, contributing to the tech discussions, as well as I used to do tech talks every Saturday morning.
Okay.
Mentorship every Saturday morning for anybody who was trying to get their certifications, get into the industry, transition into different from different markets. If you were a truck driver, you could easily get into tech. You have the discipline and the responsibility of carrying 60 to 80,000 pounds of payload, millions of dollars of merchandise and assets. That's those type of skills are actually transferable in the tech industry when they do the hiring in places like data centers and cloud computing, as well as cybersecurity.
Okay. Well, let me give you a clap for being here today. I appreciate it. Welcome back anytime. I'm sure we'll have some more programs talking about these kind of subject matters that are right up your alley, my brother. Everybody check out the Black Brain Trust. Check them out. They get into these kind of conversations, but they go even deeper on that platform. So check out the Black Brain Trust immediately. Once again, keep it techie. Thank you for coming on board today, because you added a slice that was necessary to this program. And I want you to remind people again where they can find you, when you go live, what's your schedule, and what have you.
Okay, yeah. Keep It Techie again. My YouTube channel. Just search Keep It Techie in the search engine. It'll come up, first result. But yeah, I basically do try to help people get into the tech field as much as I can. I try to do mentorship as well. I also interview certain people to try to help them get into or try to bring light of other Black people that are in the tech field, which is, very needed just to kind of, I mean, some people look at like, I don't know, showing off, showing off your skills, showing off that you actually in this field, that we do have Black people in this field, and just bringing people around to give them the knowledge on how to actually get into it. So appreciate it again, Information Man.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me on your platform again.
Let's do this, my brother. It was awesome. Let's do this. As you get ready to leave, I want you to go in the back channels and in the private chat, leave your email, because I need to contact you and schedule a one-on-one show with you to go deeper into these issues around tech, because you have the expertise in this particular subject matter, and I would like to do a show at some point in time down the line with you to explore that a little bit deeper, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem. I just dropped it back there. And again, I definitely appreciate it. All the people that came on, Mike V, shout out to you and the Black Brain Trust. What they do over there is awesome as well. And shout out to you, Ray, as well, for coming up with this topic.
But he always comes up with the great topics over here, which I appreciate. All right, brother. Well, let me give you a clap. Appreciate you. And hey, leave that email back there, my brother, so that I can copy that down and contact you at some particular date. I appreciate that. Ray, look, I know you've been pretty quiet today. I know I brought a few people on board, but I think it really added to the show. Everybody out there needs to know that Ray Alexander is the one who's come up with these topics. Every time we've done shows together, he's the man who has contacted me and say, hey, Info, we got to touch on this. I know you wanted to do a double hitter today, and there was another area that you wanted to touch on. We're going to have to schedule a show for that particular subject or any other subject that you have coming down the pipeline in the future. Just contact me, brother, as you always do. And I just want to let y'all know, when Ray Alexander comes on, these are topics that he has come up with. He kind of gives us, I'm probably going to make a complete playlist, because these are what I call the more professional, the more to the point content that really everybody can benefit from. I can get up here and talk about polarizing subject matters, such as the Lamar, Whitehead, the bishop, and all the polarizing stuff. And you can listen to the gossip about it. But this is the type of show today that everybody can benefit from. You know why? Because if you have a child, a son and a daughter, now you're able to get forewarning to make sure that your son and daughter, your nephew, your niece does not become a victim of these types of schools. Okay. And for you as the individual adult, this is a warning to you to do, as Keep It Techie said, do your research before you sign on the dotted line, because you might be in a world of trouble. Ray, your closing statements today, brother, whatever you want to hit us with before we get out of here.
Well, I appreciate that. Then I was glad to be silent, because we got some really good insights from other guests on the panel, and just wanted to salute to you for bringing this subject up. And this is more for us to all come together, to work together and build.
Yes.
As Mike said, we're less than 5% of the people in information technology. There are opportunities here. On the next show that you talked about, the CHIPS Acts and CHIPS and Science Act.
Mhm.
There are going to be like 3.5 million jobs available in the next 10 years. And I want us to get a significant percentage of those jobs, because they've been importing people from different parts of the world coming in here making $70,000, $80,000, $100,000, when that would be some types of jobs that would make a substantial change in the life trajectory for a lot of Black people. We've been here for we've been here several centuries, and we want to benefit from the fruit of what America has become. And we are legitimate citizens, and we've our ancestors paid a heavy price. And I just want to see us benefit, and you're doing a great job. I appreciate you. Thanks to the other panelists as well. And my thing is that let's just keep going at it. Let's keep opening doors for our people, and to inform our people of how they can become the best version that they're capable of for themselves.
Well, let me just say this to you, my good brother. Sister Jackson made a good point here. She says there are blacks that are in tech, engineering, science, medicine. If you go to LinkedIn, there are a lot of black people who graduated in some type of STEM fields. And I think it is important to be able to identify black people that are in these professions, reach out to them. And if you have a desire to go into the profession, definitely contact some of these folks and see if they can give you some pointers and tips and things to watch out for. We're definitely not saying that there are not black people that are in technology, but we have to be very honest. There's not enough of us in technology. We need more of us in technology than a lot of us we go to school, and a lot of times we get these degrees. I hate to say this, but we get degrees that sometimes we really can't do a lot with unless you get these very advanced degrees or what have you. A lot of humanities type courses and things of that nature, philosophy, degrees in philosophy, and degrees in history. And I'm not saying that these are degrees that are not don't have any value, but I think the way this world is going, Ray, you can back me up if I'm right or wrong. The way this world is going, Ray, would you say that black people need to reconsider the way we are educating ourselves, and that maybe tech is the way we need to be going? Because that seems to be where all the jobs are going in the future.
I would say yes, and that we need to take a broad perspective in education. I think that a well-rounded education with either a tech minor, or if you're going to be a tech major, take some liberal arts within that, because the critical thinking that comes from liberal arts is going to that's where the leadership comes from. Tech is very linear a lot of times, but your leadership, when a lot of these people go into these things, they'll find that they're project manager, program manager, director. Those are sometimes psychology majors, communication majors, because they interact with people. They have people skills, so they'll solve people skills. And so the liberal arts background is going to always be there, but your people skills. So
liberal arts, that's really what I should have been saying. Yeah, liberal arts. I think it's important for us to be in the liberal arts, but you do understand what I'm saying, Ray, that if you look at where a lot of our people tend to be pushed towards, we do tend to be pushed towards the liberal arts. And the liberal arts still have their place. You got to have teachers. You have to have history teachers. You have to have black people in psychology and become psychiatrists, right? Well, psychologists, because to be a psychiatrist, you got to go to medical school. We need to have black people in all those fields. But the area that we're really hurting the most, and Mike V said it, and I got to be honest about that and tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
He said black people only make up 5% of the tech industry. This is not hyperbolic. It is the truth. Right. That is unacceptable. That's not because we're not capable of working in these fields. It's that we just don't get steered in those areas, and we need to steer our children in those areas. We really do.
Most definitely. I agree with you on that. And that's when we talked about the K through 12 development and also excellent parenting, where parents are actively engaged in the education of their children, partnering with teachers from K through 12 to make sure that their children's skill sets are up to par in math and reading, in the sciences and everything. So It can't be an outsourcing. It's going to have actively engaged parents, whether they're married or not, because we do that in sports. When it comes to sports, everybody's engaged to see that child's success. Well, we can do that in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So the part of the thing is that
Sir A. Jones, how you doing?
Yeah. So that's what we got to do. So I think that we're on the right page on that. We need to steer them. And I think that a lot of the schools right now, the Boys and Girls Clubs, they have a STEM emphasis on that for after school. A lot of the schools are getting hip to this, and they are directing that. But we need the parents and the village to also talk about the importance of this and be prepared for all of the advanced technology jobs that are available for the 21st century. So it's not an argument, it's not a fight, it is a necessity that we get in on this and benefit from these opportunities.
Right. Let me see. Your transcript says business degrees, financing, accounting degrees are important. Yes, they are. But let me see your transcript. What I learned, I went to college and I had a lot of friends who got business degrees, right? And it was like very vague degrees. And when they left school, they ended up coming back because their business degree was so vague, it wasn't specifically tailored to something. For example, you said accounting. You can't go wrong with accounting. Everybody needs accounting. Now, you have people who have degrees in business administration. Personally, Ray, you can tell me if I'm wrong or right. I think the more specific you can have that business degree, meaning a business degree that allows you to really start working from the ground up. Accounting, everybody needs accounting. Financing, everybody needs to know how to properly finance their money. So I think the more specific you can tailor any degree, the more employable you will be, or the more skills you'll have to build your own particular business, right? To be your own boss at some point in time. So I definitely agree with her. We've got Chaos Rain in the house. Thank you for being here. We've got Pop Fit Levels Abs Salute Warrior says earlier, he said that he believes we got to go back to homeschooling. Homeschooling is great, but you can't get any of these certifications and these trade skills at homeschooling. Homeschooling would be best for when you're working with your kids. But when you become an adult, I as a parent can't certify my adult child in any of these fields or applications that require highly advanced training that I don't have as a parent. So I think as a parent, you can homeschool your kids from grade school on up. But at some point in time, your kids still have to deal with someone who is trained in a skill set that you may not be trained in. Ray, is there anything else you want to add before I end the show? And Poppy, good to have you here, brother. And go ahead and please subscribe. Once again, I knew that this. See, I'm gonna say it again, Ray. Sometimes the things that we need as Black people, that we need to listen to, we need to watch, that can benefit us personally, sometimes we sleep on it. And then we like to run and watch the things that are a car wreck. And sometimes I don't understand that, because I think today's show, we're talking about something highly important that could benefit everybody from one way or another, your family member, you yourself personally. But I'm glad that you're here, Ray. I'm going to promote this video heavily. I'm glad that you're here, and we're going to keep doing this, Ray, as much as possible. Ray, any last closing statements, because I got to close it out.
That's it, man. You had a great show. I'm glad I could be a part of it as usual. And I appreciate that you've taken the time to inform us of this information, man, and keep up the great work.
Oh, thank you. All right, Ray. Ray, we're going to do it again. Let me get on out of here. Let me start the closing music and my finishing dialogue. Thank you, Ray, again. All right, Ray Alexander is all get out. He always comes with the facts. I enjoy the brother when he comes up with these great topics and we can work these topics out. He sends me great information to put this type of topic together. Thank you, everybody. As I said before, I will be turning on the join the channel very soon, where I'll definitely kick out more content for you. Don't sleep on the Information Man Speaks podcast channel. I've been going hard over there and things are going well so far over there. Don't sleep on Info Media Live. I will be dropping hopefully a video about CPMs tomorrow for you, and then dropping more content. So definitely, everybody, I thank you out there who are a part of this channel, who have been rocking with this channel as long as you have. And I really appreciate everybody out there. It's been a great show. Let me get on out of here. Peace and love to you. Thank you, anybody that has super chatted me today. Thank you, everybody that has greeted me in the chat room. I appreciate you. We got O'Shea is in the house, the hobbyist. We got Yalpo, who will be on this program next month. We're going to schedule that, brother. He wrote an incredible book, Melanin. You are going to love it. Empress, Queen, Goddess, Big Bad Bull. Welcome to the modernization team, brother. Welcome. 0580. Thank you for coming over. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, little herder. If you are new to the channel, sister, go ahead and subscribe. There's so much more. There's other content that I talk about that really brings people over heavily, especially when it's the polarizing content. That stuff is still going to be coming your way. But we're going to do these sort of educational shows every now and then because I think it's very important and I think it adds value to this channel and balance. So once again, if you have not realized, I've been dropping YouTube shorts and I have a YouTube shorts playlist. Go check out those YouTube shorts. You might find them very interesting. I've been getting very good views on those YouTube shorts over there. And I try to make it similar to things that I might talk about on this show. So check it out. Everybody have a great rest of your weekend. Have a great night, great evening. Be safe this whole week and tell somebody that you love them, that you care about, because you know what? Life is too short and we're never promised the next day. So I really appreciate you all today that did hang around for this show. Thank you. And I give you the salutes. Thank you, everybody. Peace.
You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe.
East Coast always in me, Commonwealth, Lil Joe, getting love from my city. I roll call for the DMV. In my own lane, you could still ride with me.
Lord knows I made mistakes.
Tell the truth. You want in, but it's too late.
I don't need your support just to know I'm important.
I will never sell myself short, cause I know you see me on the come up. Big girl with big dreams and big drip. Talk is cheap, but please dare me to run up. I'ma put my money where my mouth is. Talk a good game, I'm an alphabet. Even on my worst days, still an alphabet. Standing next to me, you gotta be an alphabet. 8 ball in your pocket, I'm your alphabet. Alphabet, babe.
Never really fit in, always felt like an alien.
I be in my own space of mind, making boss moves in my own time, and I
got my own rights.
Find me all alone, I'm on the road. I had to take a couple hits, a couple stones, but targets I don't ever miss, they wanna know.
It's good to be me.
Let me give you this game for free. No, you see me on the come up. Big girl with big dreams and big trips. Talk is cheap, but please dare me to run up. I'ma put my money where my mouth is. Talk a good game, I'm an alphabet.
Please make sure to subscribe to this channel.
Even on my worst days, still an alphabet. Standing next to me, you gotta be an alphabet.
Please make sure to subscribe.
8 ball in your pocket, I'm your alphabet. Yeah, alphabet, babe. Time's been moving slowly, so we already in too deep. Can't get no sleep on each other, heavy teasing all day, and when the sun sets, you asking me to come through, picking with you. Night turn to morning dew.
Tell the truth.
Then you feel it rushing in, lose control. You don't wanna go slow, for sure. We both already know your place is my place now. My place is your
Tell the
place.
truth.
Let's face it, baby. You know all the places. My place is your place. My place.
Information is power.
Just face it. No one knows my places like you do.
tell the truth.